a little closer to it so we can give you a little bit better reporting if one does come on the ground. And there still is it is still pulling some scud, just some clouds up into it, some moisture into it. But this thing is very, very wrapped up. And the thing is, Damon, this thing does not seem like it's moving that fast. It's really crawling along at this point in time. So we're actually going to go, right here. We're going to back on the interstate, going up a mile to our east, and then give you guys a better shot as we do that. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and Nick, you make a very important point out of this, is that you said it's not moving that fast, and because it's not moving that fast right now, that is allowing this storm to strengthen. So tornado warning now issued for Elk City. Go into your tornado shelter right now, Elk City and Canute, as this storm shows rotation, mainly just on the south side of Elk City. And Nick Smith is right in it. I mean, you will not see a chaser that is any closer than what Nick is currently in. I mean, he's right in the heart of this. Let's go out to field meteorologist Michael Armstrong in Storm Command. Michael, give us an update.
All right, yeah, Damon, we are still continuing to watch the storm that's near the Colony area right now, and hail continues to be the big story with this storm, although starting to see a little bit more lowered features develop right now with this storm. As you can see, we're panning our camera around, and right over here to our northwest, this storm is now getting a little bit better inflow. In other words, southeast winds back up into the storm. So it's right now, it's still a hail maker. It certainly doesn't pose the tornado threat that the Elk City storm does. But I would say anybody right now, given the trends of the Elk City storm, will need to watch this. I mean, I'm still concerned about this storm over toward Colony, Eakly, Lukiba, Binger, and on downstream. Even the Anadarko storm near Chickasha, where Chris Lee is over there, all these storms are showing rotation, Damon. Even if they don't necessarily have tornado warnings, they could all intensify.
Yeah, and Michael, you make a very good point with that as well, because when I look at our radar, we're seeing that rotation right now, and our shear markers are popping up, especially right over Colony and just east of Corn. So when you see that red and that yellow right there, those are going to be shear markers. So Michael, your storm very well could be, if there's another tornado warning that's going to be issued, yours could be it. Let's go back out to Nick Smith and get an update right now on this tornado warning that we have currently for Elk City, because this storm still continues to be warned on. Still seeing at least an inflow notch that's coming right over Elk City right now, and where Nick is. And again, you will not get any closer than where Nick is. And Buck is very close as well. You have Buck who's looking at this from one side, and Nick's looking at it from the other side. So we'll get Buck on next. But let's first go out to Nick Smith. Nick Smith, give us an update now on your tornado warning.
Yeah, Damon. Right now, we moved a mile to the east, and we have golf ball size hail falling right now. It sounds like gunshots when it's hitting the roof right now. But we're kind of at a standstill here because I think people are hearing the sirens, not knowing what's going on. Definitely kind of a scary situation sitting right here because we can't go anywhere. It's like gridlocked where we're at. I can switch from the 360 cam over to our dash cam. You can see people just don't know where to go right now. They're sitting here and it's just kind of a little crazy time. But if you look, I can show you some of the hail that has fallen, and Damon, there was golf balls inside this, and I mean it was hitting the truck, and it was man, it's loud. So this storm has definitely got its act together. I've also noticed that there's a lot more lightning, so this thing is still intensifying as we sit here in Elk City. Back to you. Yeah,
we can definitely see that. So Nick reporting golf ball size hail with this storm. That's a hail core right there. So this is absolutely a monster of a storm when it comes to just the strength that we have, because this storm is producing up the golf ball, very well could increase to baseball in the next 30 minutes. So tornado warning right over Elk City. Let's go out to Buck. Buck, you're looking right into the storm as well. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
I'm looking right into it from the west side. Nick is just to the south side of it. I'm not seeing any lowering from my vantage point like Nick was talking about earlier, but I can definitely see the hail shaft that Nick was talking about. It is big, and he was right about the lightning. Lightning is really picking up on this storm. It's really intensifying. Back to you.
Yeah, and when we see that area of rotation right now, it's going to be highest just right over where the golf course is, where we had the tornado that struck a couple years ago, 2 years ago. So on the south side of Elk City here, that's where the area of rotation continues to be the strongest with this right here. So there's Nick. There's going to be, once again, that area of rotation that continues to make its way south of Elk City. And while we're paying a lot of attention to the area that is rotating with this storm, as you just heard from Nick just moments ago, this also has some very large hail within it, already golf ball size, and that's going to be on the lower end scale of all of these storms that we have. So, and by the way, Elk City, there's yet another storm that is moving in your direction that's coming in out of the northwest. So Elk City, you're about to at least have a couple waves of storms coming in, more like a 1-2 punch. This is going to be number one right here, with this storm dropping some large hail, and then this storm, which has some huge hail pushing close to baseballs, that is dropping down to the southeast as well. So meeting point in Elk City. Got to watch that one very closely. As we go farther to the east, you can see here another storm, and these storms are slowly moving to the east. There's going to be Storm Command, Corn, and Colony. Let's go down and get an update with this storm that was just issued. This is a new severe thunderstorm warning that's going to be for Grady County for ping pong ball size hail. This one making its way towards Oklahoma City. Let's go out to Chris Lee. Chris Lee. Storm is warned on now for Okay, we'll get Chris Lee back on in just a moment here. But this storm has been warned on for ping pong ball size hail, and it is moving very slowly. So if you're watching right now, as we look downstream, if you're going to be anywhere in Cleveland County, I'm going to go ahead and highlight where I expect that this storm is most likely to move outside of this warning. Look at this as an advanced severe thunderstorm warning, but Newcastle, Moore, Norman, down to Goldsby. This is going to be a storm that's going to move in with ping pong ball size hail. It's moving in slowly, so you have plenty of time before this moves in. It's about 10 miles per hour, so it's going to take a little while, but still, just a heads up. This will likely be the first of many severe storms that will likely impact parts of the Oklahoma City metro. Let's go all the way back out across western Oklahoma. Get an update right now from Shane Helton. Shane, give us an update with what you're seeing on your storm.
Here we are, David. All right, David, I'm still south of Cheyenne here, and we've got quite a bit of motion in these clouds. These storms are really intensifying. It's absolutely crazy how well they are going along, especially since that storm's over there at Elk City, kind of blocking all of the inflow to this storm. But it is really, really intensifying. We've seen lots of motion in the clouds. There's every once in a while we see a couple of areas where there's some rotation, but it's just not really doing a whole lot yet, except for making some heavy rain and some large hail. Back to you, David.
Okay, all right. We'll watch it closely here. And again, that's coming in out of the storm that's northwest of Elk City. Let's go out to Nick Smith. Nick, still included in this tornado warning for Elk City. Have you seen anything come down compared to what you had just a few moments ago?
No. It looks like it's a little bit better, but Damon, this thing is putting out some. I just took a picture of it, and I'll send it to you guys here in a second. But it is a little bit smaller than baseball size that is in this, and I mean that's one that it's falling again. We're kind of driving right back. We're just kind of trying to stay right behind the hail core. But I'm telling you, Damon, it's a lot larger than a golf ball, but not quite a baseball. So, and this hail is big. I can tell you right now, there's probably some damage to roofs and cars that's going on in Elk City right now. Just to the north and on the right now, I'd say on the north and northeast side of I-40. Oh man, it's approaching the east and northeast side of town right now. So definitely, we had at least 2-inch hail here. So, and even a little bit bigger than that. I didn't measure it that way, but it's bigger than a golf ball, and it's a little bit smaller than a baseball. Damon?
All right, so you're probably pushing close to tennis ball size hail out of this, and the hail is going to be all the black, so it extends just north of Elk City and then crosses right over into Canute. So what Nick is reporting right now, for those of you in Elk City, while there is a tornado warning, he's not seeing much in the form of at least anything coming out of touching the ground, so that's good. However, this thing is dropping some huge hail. Let's go to Buck. Buck is coming in on the west side of Elk City. Buck, give us an update with what you're seeing.
David, you're exactly right. I'm just entering Elk City from the west. Lightning is still intensifying. There's no lowerings from where we thought there was earlier, but there's still some significant storm structure there. We haven't ran into any hail yet, but it's really dark. It's getting really dark out here, and thanks to the lightning, we can see the storm structure fairly well. Back to you.
Yeah, it looks like in the last radar scan that we have coming in, that rotation has really weakened considerably over Elk City. So if you're in Elk City, that's what you want to hear. Now, what you don't want to hear is that this thing is still dropping some huge hail. And so Buck is coming into the west side of Elk City. You can see a stream there on the left-hand side coming into Elk City right now. So given this current track, it's headed towards eventually Foss and Burns Flat. Let's go eastbound here and get an update on this storm that Storm Command is currently on. Storm Command, watching this storm closely, has a lot of large hail in it. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, that's right. This thing could produce some golf ball size hail, and that will do damage. This is the hail core is a couple of miles north of Colony, and the storm has kind of been meandering. It looked like it was going to turn hard to the right and move down toward Binger. Now it's resumed more of an east-northeast motion that would take it back up toward El Reno and Union City and Mustang if it maintains that course. It's going to be really interesting to see how this storm interacts with the other ones around it and what its eventual course is going to be. But it could move up into the southwest sides of the metro. It looks like to me, at this speed, unless it speeds up, Damon, it's only moving at about 20 to 25. It could move up toward El Reno in about another 2 to 2.5 hours. I know that seems like forever. I expect the storm to probably start accelerating at some point, which would bring it in around 10 to 10:30 p.m. under the west side of the metro.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, and what I love about what all of our storm chasers are showing you here is this 360 cam, where they can pretty much give you this entire stadium view of these storms and show you exactly what's happening. So I want to reset the coverage right now, break down everything that we are currently finding right now on the radar. You can see there's a lot just west of Oklahoma City. Storm number 1, this has ping pong ball size hail. This is moving up to the northeast. This is going to come into Moore, Norman, and out towards Tuttle. Storm number 2 is what Michael's on. Storm number 3 is what Nick Smith is currently on. Let's go out to Nick right now. Nick, you're on a storm, the only tornado warning currently in the state. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, we're stopped on the interstate. We've got tennis ball size hail falling. We are just to the east of the State Highway 34 exit, and man, it's just blasting us right now with tennis ball size hail. And, oh wow.
With Nick's picture here, because we can see the hail in his stream. It's going to be this one there in the bottom left here. And by the way, Elk City, look, this message is specifically for you, Elk City, is that this storm dropped a lot of hail. This storm up to the northwest is now accelerating, and it's going to come right over Elk City. So let's go full if we can with Elk City so we can see. Look at this hail that is coming down. Nick, how big is that hail that you just mentioned?
Tennis ball size hail, and I just lost my sunroof, Damon.
You just lost your sunroof. You okay?
Yeah, we're good. It's still good, but we just lost the sunroof. I mean, there's really nowhere for us to go at this point in time.
Oh my goodness!
Thank God.
Well, there's some large hail. I mean, this is tennis ball size hail that is falling near Elk City, and so Nick just now reporting that his sunroof is gone. And just a heads up for anyone that's ever in a situation like this is that the strongest window in your car is your windshield. Those are meant to actually cave in but not shatter. Your back windows can and your side windows can. So if you ever get into a position like this, try to angle your front of your vehicle, the front of your windshield, into the direction that the storm is coming from. So, but yeah, my goodness, that is some large hail, and that's going to put some holes in the ground. My goodness, holy cow. Okay, let's go back over to the radar. Buck, let's go out to Buck if we can, because I want Buck to be very careful, because this storm is accelerating down to the southeast, coming into Elk City right now. And this one is going to have some very large hail as well. So Elk City, you're going to be pretty much at least the area in the state as of right now, 8:34 on this Tuesday night, that's going to have probably the worst of the storms. And so let's go out to Buck. Hey, Buck. Tennis ball size hail just east of you, and that storm that is just northwest of you that is coming in is dropping some very large hail. Give us an update right now, Buck, on how things are in Elk City.
Well, right now it's kind of eerie. There's not really any rain falling at all. There's just the lightning has come down just a little bit. We have not seen any evidence of hail in the town of Elk City. We're in downtown Elk City right now, but we are really literally right in between both of these storms. So we can go either direction here. Obviously, we don't want to run into what Nick just ran into. That's awful news, and hopefully he's okay. But we're going to stick with this, and we'll get back to you if we see anything that we need to let you know about.
Buck, your picture is crystal clear coming into Elk City right now. So heads up, Elk City storm coming in. Now let's go back over to the radar. This storm, that is baseball-size hail. That is in this storm almost. So anywhere between tennis ball up to baseball-size hail and winds of 70 miles per hour, and it is surging down into Elk City. So Elk City, 1-2 punch. So the first storm is moving out. The second storm is right here. It is moving in, and this is going to be a big one for you, Elk City, once again, with some very large hail. So I want to pull on out, show everyone once again what we are currently dealing with. And so because I know we have a lot, and so here's a big picture right now. I have you showing all the storms in the state. This storm right here, we have Chris Lee on it. We'll get him on in just a bit. This has ping pong ball size hail. This storm right here has up to lime size hail in it. This storm that's east of Elk City, by the way, the tornado warning is the rotation has weakened considerably. Good news there. Has tennis balls, and Nick just lost the sunroof. And then that storm that's just northwest of Elk City, that has baseball size hail. So as you can see, this is a big time hail threat that we are dealing with these storms moving in. Do we have Chris Lee available? I want to get we'll try to get Chris Lee back on. Okay, hey, Chris Lee, I want to talk to you right now. Your storm is a one that is currently closest to Oklahoma City. It does have a hail core in it right now. Up to ping pong ball size hail is our concern from Pecasset to Amber. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
Yeah, we're in the Lake Chickasha area. We have been kind of looking for the hail. We did see some areas where there's kind of some fog from some maybe perhaps leftover hail. I have not actually seen any hail falling or hail on the ground, but this storm does have the potential. Moving fairly slow also, so jumping torrential rain in the area and causing issues with some of the local roads. But we're headed towards the area of Pocasset, as is the storm, and we'll let you know how it goes. See if we see any of that bigger hail, Damon.
All right, so this right here is going to be where the hail core is currently located over Pecasset and Amber. The tornado warning is going to be canceled, so we do not have any more tornado warnings ongoing right now. But we have, as we've been telling you now for a while, is that hail was going to be our biggest threat for tonight, and is it ever? I cannot hit the message hard enough about the hail that we have coming in with these storms. And as the sun is now setting, the low-level winds are now increasing, and that's going to allow these storms to at least generate even larger hailstorms. So this is just the beginning, folks. Let's go out to field meteorologist Michael Armstrong and Storm Command Corn Eakley Binger. Michael, big hail. Give us an update with what you're seeing. Okay, we'll get Michael back on in just a moment here. Let's go back out to Elk City. I want to check in and see how Nick is doing. A few minutes ago, we heard that Nick lost his windshield. So let's go out to Nick right now. Hey, Nick, how are things on I-40?
Damon, we actually jumped off I-40 because the hail was still falling. There was a place where we could exit, so we got off I-40 and decided to come back to there's a little Walmart here, and we're going to grab something to put over the top of our sunroof here and kind of regroup and get back in the chase here in just a few minutes. Just kind of clean up some of the glass.
Okay, Nick, you do what you have to do, and just let Steve Carando is working with our crews right now. Let him know when you're all cleaned up there, and I hope you're okay there, Nick, because broken glass in the car is never good. So this is where the tennis ball size hail is currently located, at least with what Nick just experienced. Now coming into Canute, however, baseball size hail is falling right here, northwest of Elk City from Berlin. As you go down towards Carpenter, let's go out to Michael. Michael, big hailstorms unfolding now across western Oklahoma. Give us an update.
We're in the middle storm, if you want to think of it that way. There's one Okay, just north of there. There's also this storm that we're at northwest of Binger. Damon, the storm is rotating in the mid-levels, but it doesn't have any really pronounced lowerings. That one looks a little bit suspicious. However, it's not really in a place on the storm where you would normally find a tornado. So I'm going to pan my 360 camera back around, and this is the core area, and this is where you will find up to golf ball size hail right now, and that is lifting up to the northeast toward Hinton, Damon. And I'll just tell you right now, based on what we just heard from Nick Smith out there in Elk City, listen, if you can get your vehicle under something now in Hinton, I would recommend it. If you're downstream from any one of these storms, and they're all moving generally to the east-northeast, with the exception of the big storm that's out there south of Cheyenne that you guys have been watching come in from the Texas Panhandle, all these other storms are moving to the east-northeast. So if you look at radar on your KOCO5 app and you see that storm is headed toward you, it would be a good idea to try to do something with your vehicle now rather than wait and wait and see if the storm gets to you. Now's the time to go ahead and take action if you want to try to protect some of your property. That's the main threat with these storms, is the hail. I'm not saying that we can't have a tornado with one of these storms later this evening, but I am saying that the main risk continues to be hail as of right now.
Okay, yeah. So, and just a heads up there, Michael. So, in just the last radar scan, our radar picked up a slightly larger hail core up to the size of 2 inches. That's going to be about lime size. So, that's going to be just northeast of Colony. An update, and this storm is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, that we see ongoing out across western Oklahoma. That's headed towards Elk City, and this is now warned on for tennis ball and up to baseball size hail, once again with this storm that is coming in. So Elk City, look, this thing is coming in fast. It is moving down to the southeast. This is where all the large hail is. So we're no longer dealing with a tornado warning, but we are dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning that has some big time hail. Shane is on this, Buck is on this, Nick is on this from Elk City, north of Sayre. Let's go out to Shane Helton if we can right now, because Shane, this storm, it is accelerating quickly at the max. I expect that this storm is going to pick up close to 50-mile-an-hour speed moving down to the southeast, and it's dropping some large hail. Shane, give us an update with what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, we're watching this real closely. It's really kind of actually interesting because as this storm is still growing and still intensifying, you can watch the scud clouds just come racing from out of the storm, outside the outside area, and then they come across and then right up into the storm, and they're just moving really fast. It's really interesting to watch. And then there's a big old long rain curtain, and it's just inside there. You can't see anything at all. We did get into the hail. I couldn't tell you how big it was. It sounded like it was probably big and close to quarters, but I never really did see any hit the highway. I know they were hitting the windshield, that's for sure. But this thing it's moving looks like it's moving straight towards Elk City again, and we're watching it real closely. But there's not anything as far as rotation right now that I can see from my vantage point. But there's definitely some hail in there and some really heavy rain. Back to you, Damon.
Okay, yeah, so we're watching that one for Elk City. Let's go out to Michael Armstrong. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, just watching this area back to my west-southwest, and it is a little bit lower. I think a lot of this is due to outflow from underneath the storms. And just for anybody who's out, and I know a lot of times that's one of the things Oklahomans do is they go out on their porch and when they hear a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning, they want to go out and look at it. This looks very ominous, and you can see that lowered area right there next to that light. It's getting a little tougher to see now with lightning, but that is a wall cloud wannabe right now. That is not serious. It's not posing a threat of tornadoes at this time. What we are going to do is actually move. We're just going to see what kind of hail we find up here in the core, because like you were saying, this thing shows it could have some pretty big hail. So we want to see if we see any hailstones that are on the ground. Without going up into the core. And just see what kind of hail size it has with it, because this thing could really do some damage as it moves up toward Hinton.
It absolutely could. So that's a storm for Hinton. I want to give an update right now on this storm from Pocasset to Amber. Right now, newest data shows that this is 60-mile-an-hour winds and quarter-size hail. We have Chris Lee on this storm that's currently making its way to the east, headed towards Bridge Creek and eventually Blanchard and Middleburg. So quarter-size hail is going to be just west of Amber. That's where Chris Lee is going to be located with this storm. So, and this is one that will likely make its way into Oklahoma City, especially south sides of the metro, Norman, more as you go into extreme southern parts of the metro in just a little bit, probably in the next 90 minutes. So that's quarter-size hail. This storm still has some large hail, golf balls and larger. And then we have this storm that is going to be out for Elk City, which this is quickly closing in on Elk City. And when I say it's quickly closing in on Elk City, I know Elk City, it's been storming now for a while. This storm extends to the east, large hail with this. This storm is now racing into Elk City, and with Nick, Buck, and Shane all in position. And just a heads up, Nick is currently cleaning up the glass. He lost his sunroof just moments ago with the tennis ball size hail that came in with that. There's a lot of large hail, and this right here is a lot of large hail that we have right now that's going to be just northwest of Elk City, southwest of Hammond. This is sliding down to the southeast, and it's picking up speed very quickly. So this is a big-time hail threat. I want to send it over to Abigail Ogle at the news desk for an update.
Damon, I just quickly want to let everyone know at home, if you are thinking about your plan tonight, most hospitals are not opening as a shelter. I know many hospitals usually do, but because of the COVID-19 situation, I just heard from Integris, the next couple of nights they will not be able to offer that. They're not even letting guests in. So I would hate for someone to drive all the way to the hospital, think they're going to be safe, and then be turned away. That's the number one point that I wanted to make. Also, Damon, we're starting to see some of our power outages roll in. So please make sure you have the KOCO app. You can watch us if you lose power. That hail could knock out power, no doubt about it. Damon, over to you.
Yeah, it could knock out a lot of things. Power, one of them. It could easily put on a new roof. So what we have been watching with this storm coming into Elk City, and Elk City, I want you to know just how serious of a storm this is. This right here is where you're going to have, at times, it's fluctuating back and forth between lime-size hail and tennis ball-size hail. This is coming in from the north. That means that if you are sitting in your room and your house is on a north-facing, or you're facing north, go into a different room, because this hail is going to be big enough that it could easily knock out those windows. And so you want to make sure, look, go to the southern part of your house or the eastern side of your house, because this is going to blow out any north-facing windows for sure with hail that large at winds of 70 miles per hour. That is exactly where the hail is. Each block is a mile, so that's 1, 2, 3, about 4 miles, 4 to 5 miles northwest of Elk City, coming down to the southeast. And that right there is going to do a number. This is where you have the large hail. Yes, we have some large hail with this, but it's come down a bit in size. So when you look at this entire map right here, that's the large hail. That's exactly where it is. It's coming right into Elk City. And when it comes into Elk City, this is going to do a tremendous amount of damage. So want to make sure that everyone is aware, Elk City, that this is a bad storm that is coming in once again, where we have some very large hail with this storm. Let's go out to Buck. I want to get Buck on the line if he's available, because he's currently going to be he's going to be in Canute. Let's get an update from Buck. And Buck, what's the storm looking like in front of you?
Well, again, I've kind of found an area where there's no rain falling. We are approaching Canute. We're on I-40 headed east. I do see some hail over here on the shoulder. No telling how big it was, when it fell. But as of right now, we're just trying to find a place that maybe we can take a little bit of shelter, because there's bigger hail coming from our north and west. So we will shout back at you if we get anything. Back to you. Okay,
be safe out there. With a hailstorm like this, certainly you do not want to mess around at all with a storm like this that is currently moving in. It's a big just cluster of storms. As I show you the big picture right now, you can see exactly what I'm dealing with. We also have right now, if you want to clean this up and show you the big picture of what we have ongoing, this is quarter size hail. So Amber, Tuttle, this is extending to the east, and so we'll keep a close eye on this. We have Chris Lee on this storm, and so we'll get Chris Lee on the phone in just a moment. But this storm, Chris Lee, moving to the east that Chris Lee is on. Let's go out to Chris right now. Chris, give us an update with what you're seeing on your storm.
Yeah, we're just to the east of Pocasset, coming back to the east. I'm sorry, to the west of it, coming back to the east, and we're getting about quarter-size hail. Very heavy rain, but in that there's hail about to that side, but it's fairly heavy hail. This is the heaviest that we've seen, and this storm was warmed on up to golf balls. Haven't seen anything quite that size, but not to say that that's not in here. We're getting quarter-size hail, and we're about 2 miles now west of Pocasset, coming to Pocasset. I'm going to follow this on up into the Minko area.
Okay, yeah. So right now, this storm out by Minko is warned on for quarter-size hail, although that can certainly fluctuate back and forth. But there's the hail core from Pocasset to Amber, moving to the east at about 10 miles per hour. So this is a slow-moving storm, but it will make its way towards Newcastle and eventually Norman, Goldsby, Washington, and Blanchard as it moves eastbound. Not much of a tornado threat, but it does have at least a threat for some hail. Abigail, you're getting some pictures in right now from Elk City. Give us an update.
You know, that storm chaser Nick Smith lost his sunroof there in Elk City. He is okay. He's kind of cleaning up the glass. This is what did that. Take a look, Damon. This is from Kelsey out of Elk City. That almost looks baseball to me. Obviously tennis ball, but that did some serious damage. KOCO storm chaser Nick Smith lost his sunroof. He and his team, they are okay. They're cleaning up glass, trying to get back on. But Damon, I'm talking to my now friends in Elk City. I met them back in 2017 covering the deadly tornado there. They have been in their storm shelter since they heard the sirens. That tornado warning has now been lifted, but looking at the radar, you're calling it maybe a 1-2 punch. Should they go back into the shelter there?
If they feel safer in the shelter, the tornado risk is not, it's low, but it's not zero. So we'll let them know if they need to go back into the shelter. However, they do want to get away from any north-facing windows for sure. Let's go out to Nick Smith, who is currently in Elk City. Nick, tennis ball size hail, round number 2 coming in. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon. I was just in the Walmart in Elk City, and so if anybody has family in that works there, they've taken all the associates back to the back room. They're safe. They did have the majority of their skylights that are in there were all blown out. There was hail coming through. There's still hail that was sitting in there, and I was going to tell you, as it hit and it busted our sunroof, we started seeing baseballs fall. So that's why we had to get off the interstate, turn around, and come back this way because there was baseballs falling, Damon. So I would have got out and got you one. That way we could do that, show you guys. But at that point, it was more of a safety issue for us to make sure that we got out of that and make sure we kept ourselves safe. But I'll tell you, that storm dove south really, really hard. And then as we came back, we started experiencing some rather strong inflow into the storm. So that storm was still going hard, and we're in a safe place now where we're under an overhang at a gas station here for the second round that's about to come through. Back to you.
Okay, we're going to keep a close eye there with Nick Smith. So, and at least goes to show you the strength of these storms. And round number 2 is coming in quickly to Elk City. So that right there is a baseball size hail and tennis ball size hail, and it's about to come right on in. And this thing is picking up speed. So Nick Smith, Power 360 cam. Those cameras are so important. We're just giving you that stadium view of what's happening all around you. Buck, you had that 360 cam as well out in Calumet. Buck, give us an update right now with what you're seeing.
I'm in Canute, not Calumet, Damon, but we just pulled into an awning.
Ooh, that's a good hole. I want to take a picture of that.
Just off the interstate, there's definitely golf balls on the ground here where we're at. Right now it's just raining, but we've got some hail coming from our northwest, so we're just sitting here waiting for it to come through. Back to you.
Okay, yeah, my apologies there. Yeah, so again, Buck is going to be currently out in Canute, not Calumet. So big hail core coming in their direction as well. So, and as you heard Buck just mention, taking on golf balls, you can see that 360 camera, that night vision. You have to have night vision in this type of atmosphere, chasing late at night, and that's exactly what all of our storm chasers, are equipped with right here. Will be night vision. So this storm is now coming into the city limits of Elk City. This is a dangerous storm and an inflow notch that I'm still very concerned about. By the way, coming in, you can see there, it's not rotating very hard, but it is at least showing some area of spin. It's somewhat broad, but we do need to watch it closely. Let's go out to Shane Helton if we can. Shane Helton, this storm coming into Elk City right now. has some very large hail, up to tennis balls. We see you just west of Elk City. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
Damon, we're actually watching a little bit of a lowering here. It's west of Elk City, but it's not doing anything. We did get a wind gust from what they call rear flank downdraft. It's the RFD that comes around the backside of the storm, kind of wraps around the wall clouds sometimes. But it was probably only about, I say, 35-mile-an-hour wind gust there. And the hail has moved off to our east, which is good. We're kind of following it. I haven't seen any yet, but I'm expecting, like Buck was talking a minute ago, we'll probably start seeing a whole bunch here in a minute. So I think what I'm going to do is probably run down towards I-40 and then head up towards Elk City here in just a few minutes. Damon, back to you.
Okay, yeah, see a little bit of an inflow notch that's currently coming in with this storm. Rotation is not very strong, but it certainly is there. The bigger threat for Elk City is going to be this hail. So Elk City had one tornado warning earlier this evening. Now we're watching the second one. And again, rotation, it's there. It's not very tight, but it is there. But I'm more so concerned about this big hail. This is tennis balls, if not even larger. That's the large hail right here coming right on into Elk City. And so this storm is now accelerating down to the southeast, and I'm very concerned about it. This is all hail, by the way. This is hail right here. This is hail, and that is hail. And when you're talking about tennis ball size hail coming in, that can do quite a bit of damage. As you heard Nick Smith just mention moments ago, all the skylights in Walmart were blown out because of the hail that came in. Nick lost his sunroof with this as well. So this is a damaging hailstorm, and that was just round number one. And I'm afraid that round number two is going to be, if not even worse than round number one, as we see right here coming in. Let's go back out to Nick. Nick, give us an update right now with what you're seeing. Okay, we'll get Nick on in just a second. So it looks like that Wendy's may have just briefly lost power. Let me know when we get Nick back on. So, but there's going to be some power outages that are coming in with this for sure, with winds of 70 miles per hour. But that hail core is coming right on into Elk City. That's exactly where it is. It is going to be just about 1-2 miles north of Elk City, and it's probably coming in right now. So here's the Elk City. I know that we've been in this kind of this in between as storm number one moved out. Storm number two is now coming in, but this is going to be a doozy. This is going to be a tough one, Elk City, as this hail is going to be very large coming in. Let's go with the Buck right now. Buck, you're in Canute. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
It's kind of let up a little bit. It's just raining right now, but just looking at the radar, Damon, it looks like I'm right in between both hail cores, the one here and to the north, or to the east and south of me, and then the one back to our northwest by Elk City. So we're just sitting here hoping we can avoid the hail that is coming our way. Back to you.
Yeah, you're in between storms, but probably not for long. So again, you can see Buck here, 360 km, using that with the night vision. You can see the rain coming down and into distance there. You can see that lightning. But this is a big one as well coming into Canute. Let's go back over to the radar right now, show you the latest with where that hail core is, because this entire thing is pretty much warned on for some pretty large hail. You heard Buck mention he's kind of in between, and he is. So Foss, hail. Elk City, hail, just north of you. And so this is moving down to the southeast and is currently accelerating. As we zoom on out, show you the big picture that we have right now so everyone can see exactly what we have unfolding. So we have a line of storms that has pretty much gone up from Amber to Binger, Eakley, all the way out to Elk City. Quarter-size hail, golf ball-size hail, tennis balls and larger. Let's go back out to Nick Smith. Nick, give us an update with what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, we're in Elk City, and they're blowing the sirens now. They just started to blow the tornado sirens here, just warning people that are outside. So I would just suggest with that baseball-sized hail that's with it, it was coming through the sunroof or the sunlights in Walmart, and I've seen it in the past come through, like, decking on roofs. So, I mean, I just suggest people get to a safe spot. If you can get in your tornado shelter, do that. And just ride this thing out, and everybody will be okay. So just take those tornado precautions as they're blowing sirens, but also stay away from windows, because that hail can come through those windows. And I can tell you firsthand, man, it comes down really hard, really fast. And we're starting to get ping pong ball size hail here now, right off of I-40.
Okay, hey Nick. So we see your 360 camming. You're saying that ping pong ball size hail is now coming down on I-40. So that's the beginning of what's going to be what is going to be a growing hail size out of this. If you're just now tuning in, you're currently watching KOCO 5 News on MeTV. This is being broadcasted over the KOCO 5 Channel 5 airwaves right now. And so our coverage continues with these large hail cores that are now coming into Elk City. And right now, Nick is reporting up to ping pong ball size hail. There's Shane. There's going to be Nick. Let's go back over to Nick's picture if we can, because he's reporting again ping pong ball size hail beginning to come down. Hey, Nick, we see your night vision is on there. Reporting, you said ping pong ball size hail. Is it getting any larger now?
No, Damon. It just started hailing just for a minute or two. It just started hailing for a minute, and it kind of stopped again. So right now we're just kind of waiting to see. And I've got the night vision on just to be able to see if there's anything on the anything that we can see in the clouds and in the base. See if there's anything that's kind of out there. So we're just kind of watching it from here. We'll let you know if we see anything else. Back to you.
Okay, yeah, we hear the sirens blaring right now there in Elk City for this storm coming in. So once again, KOCO 5 News on MeTV, 9 o'clock starting right now. And our big coverage continues with these hailstorms that we told you about. This was going to happen, and everything is coming together the way that we have expected it to. And we have some large hailstorms that are coming in. So again, Nick reporting ping pong ball size hail. That's about to increase in a pretty big way. That's going to be happening out across Elk City. So our crews are lined up. You see them in Elk City. There's Michael. There's Chris Lee. But these are some just huge storms that are currently going on. And Elk City is really going to be it. Let's go out to Buck King. Buck, give us an update with what you're seeing.
Well, we're still seeing the same thing, Damon. The wind is starting to pick up where I'm at, so we can kind of feel that storm getting closer to us. I've stepped outside my truck here just to kind of hear it. Looking back to our west, there's a lot of lightning. It's really intensifying, it looks like, and the winds are really starting to whip around me back here. So we're going to try to reposition here in just a little bit when we can get away from this hail and get a look back towards that storm.
Okay, well, just be careful there, Buck. Some large hail coming in, and currently Buck is going to be out towards Canute. Let's go look at the radar right now, and I want to once again show everybody what we're dealing with. So this storm coming in, oh my goodness! And now we're going to see another storm that's can come into eventually Elk City as well. So Elk City, you're just taking it tonight, and this is going to be just about as bad as it can get with just a series of hailstorms that are coming in. Let's go back out to Nick if we can. Hey Nick, what's the hail? How large is the hail now in your where you are?
David, we've had a couple of golf balls, but it's not the main part of the hail still has not hit here yet.
Hey, we'll get back to Nick there in just a second. So, and it looks like that's going to be coming in from Shane Helton on the bottom left. So we'll get to Shane in just a second. Looks like an accident right there. So this right here is just a huge hailstorm that is just coming in. All the black that you see, this is where you're going to see the hail, golf balls, tennis balls, and baseballs coming into Elk City right now. And then Shane's up on an accident. Let's go to Shane Helton right now. Shane, give us an update with what you're seeing.
Damon, this right here is on the west side of Elk City, right here at the Hutches, where this is where the I-40 business loop meets up with the east side of the west side of Hutches. But anyway, somebody's had a wreck here, but all the airbags are blown in this vehicle, but I don't see anybody here. The storm sirens are sounding here in town, and we're going to get some fuel here in a minute, but it looks to me like everything is okay. There's nobody here. So
that one.
Back to you.
Okay, good. I hope everyone's okay in that. So go get your fuel there, Shane. Back over to the radar we go. Watching this one again, Elk City, that hail core is right overhead. So I know it's hailing. It is hailing hard in Elk City. From Elk City, just northeast of Elk City, this storm moving down to the southeast, seeing a bit of an inflow notch with this one. We're beginning to see that low-level jet really beginning to ramp up across Oklahoma, and so these storms are beginning to ramp up as well as the low-level winds are just becoming more favorable for these storms to rotate. As we've been telling you about throughout the evening, tornado risk is not high, but it's not zero either. So this storm moving down to the southeast goes into Canute at 9:10. We go into Dill City at 9:31, Cordell, 9:43, Corn at 10 o'clock. This storm still warned on for tennis ball size hail, and that hail core, that hail track is going to move quickly down to the southeast. We are seeing at least some shear with this. It is rotating. Not rotating nearly as significant as what we saw with the first storm that came in, but still, we're gonna keep a close eye on that. As you can see, our rotation tracker is at least showing an area of spin coming right over Elk City, just on the east side as you make your way east of town, exactly where Nick Smith is going to be located. So Shane, Nick, there is Buck, and then we have this storm that is happening now near Colony and ongoing as you make your way towards Corn as well. This is where Michael Armstrong is going to be getting an inflow notch coming in very close to Lookeba and Eakley. Michael, out to you we go. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
French. Yeah, Damon, we are watching this storm. It is starting to intensify, and I can definitely see the mesocyclone in front of me intensifying right now. This is going to be north and west of Binger, but this storm is getting stronger compared to what it was earlier, and it looks like the hail core is going to pass very near Lookeba, just south of Hinton. Could be some rather large hail still possible with this storm. We did venture up into the core, but we did not find anything like what Nick saw out there at Elk City, thankfully. But I'll tell you what, this storm is still quite strong here just to the northwest of Binger, and it's got an inflow notch on it that we do watch for sometimes that will precede a wall cloud and potentially a tornado. Now, I'm not saying the thing is going to produce a tornado, but we are going to monitor this very, very closely as it is moving up into Canadian County here within about another 30 minutes and then eventually up toward El Reno based on its current track.
Yeah, and given the speed of this storm and the direction of the storm, not moving very quickly, we know out here tornado threat is pretty much always there. But if you've been watching radar in Oklahoma, like I think a lot of us probably, I would say a lot of us know what to look for when at least you look at the first picture of a radar, and it's an inflow notch like this. Now, what's happening inside the storm is what we're currently dissecting with every single radar scan, but we do know that this has some large hail, inflow notch right here. It's right on a boundary where this storm can rotate a bit. It's not rotating very strong right now, but it is rotating enough that it is at least raising some eyebrows right here. Moving to the east, it's going to make its way to Sickles, Lookeba at about 9:10, 9:22 large hail core. Let's go out to Nick Smith in Elk City. Nick, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon. Currently, still at the same place. I'm by the Walmart and off I-40 in Elk City. We're sitting under the awning at Hutch right now. We got tennis ball size hail falling right now, Damon.
Size hail falling right now in Elk City. Jonathan Conder, we've been watching this for a while. We knew hail was going to be a big risk out of this, but Jonathan, Nick now has tennis ball size hail falling in this picture.
Yeah, that's not good. And what we're dealing here with are two strong supercells. There's actually a chain of supercells moving across and along I-40, but there's two storms that we're really watching real closely when it comes to tornado threat. So we've been talked about this morning on the news starting at 4:30 this morning about how we'd be expecting some very large hail. You're watching that happen live with Nick Smith right there in Elk City. But besides that hail threat, really concerned also about the chance of a tornado. And the concern is the low-level winds. Even though, you know, there's not a lot of instability, these two storms, there's two storms that I'm watching, the Elk City storm and then the Binger storm. So the one Nick is on with Buck and Shane and the one that Michael is on with Storm Command. Both those storms are latched onto what we call a boundary. It's a warm front, and the low-level winds are conducive for low-level rotation. So, number one, we know these storms are really strong because they're pumping out really big hail. Okay, so that's obviously the biggest threat, but also the tornado threat. So even though we don't have any tornado warnings right now, I do have concern, but just in the last couple minutes watching radar, there has been a slight uptick in the velocity or the rotation of both those storms. So we'll have to watch that real closely there, Damon.
Yeah, and as we look at this picture coming in from Nick, as he just mentioned, those are tennis balls mixed in with this coming into Elk City now for the second time this evening. So this right here has just been a bad night for Elk City. And I hate to say this, but Elk City, I don't think you're done yet because there's yet another storm that's going to be coming in as well. So Elk City, storm number one, busted out all the skylights there at the Walmart. Storm number two, is looking pretty nasty. And here's yet another storm over Sweetwater, Dempsey, Raiden, Oklahoma. That's going to more than likely follow in the same track as this one. So we have Shane, we have Nick, we have Buck, we have Michael. The power of 360 cam and night vision is so important when you're tracking these storms late at night. Seeing a bit of an inflow notch, some rotation, but this also has a big hail threat. As we were telling you earlier this afternoon about just the hail risk that we were looking at for tonight, it hasn't changed yet. So all the social media posts that you've seen coming from myself, from Jonathan, from Michael, those are still holding firm. Nothing has changed at all. So right now, tennis balls falling in Elk City, and that's going to do a tremendous amount of damage. Putting a storm track down to the southeast, the hail core goes into Burns Flat at 926, Cordell at 945, Rocky 1047, and Godebo at 1007, with this storm currently moving down to the southeast. So this has just been a bad storm. If you're watching us right now in Oklahoma City and saying, hey, what's the deal with our storms? Because we know that there's a risk for storms coming in. We're going to see that coming in right around the 10 to 11 o'clock hour with these storms as they eventually make their way to the east. So as we reset and show you the big picture right now, this storm right here does have some quarter-size hail. As a matter of fact, we'll get Chris Lee on in just a moment here. But quarter-size hail with this cell from Pecasset, Amber, just west of Bridge Creek. This is moving to the east-northeast very slowly. So this storm is going to be coming in with some small hail. If we have Chris Lee available, we'll get him on. Let's go out to Chris Lee right now. Chris, watching your storm moving up to the northeast, give us an update with what you're seeing.
A couple miles north of Amber, south of Tuttle on Highway 92. Just saw a little bit of dime-sized hail. Not a lot. It looks like the hail intensity of the storm has come down. Certainly nothing anywhere near the size of what's out west on those storms further west. But it does have some hail with it, and it has been pulsing up and down. So we're kind of watching. We saw quarters with it in the Pecasset area. So there is some fairly large hail with it at times. So we're kind of watching that as it slides over towards the Newcastle area. David?
Okay, yeah. So good news to report, at least with this storm, Chris, that you're on, is that we're gonna let this warning expire. While it is moving up to the northeast, and we're probably going to get at least some pea-sized hail coming in with it, it looks like at least this storm is showing signs of weakening. So this storm is not. And this one is moving due east. Jonathan, watching at least some area of rotation very close to Storm Command. Jonathan, what stands out to you about this?
Yeah, so of course Storm Command is going to be right where the rotation is going to be. Michael, one of the best storm chasers there with Kyle Ham driving in Storm Command, and they have that 360 night cam, and boy, Michael is not in a better position. He's right there. So when we're looking at radar, you know, you're going to hear us use a lot of terms like hook echo. Okay, that is a radar signature where we're looking at the intensity of the radar and what's happening. This storm is rotating, and it's rotating so hard, it's pulling in dry air, and that little notch is cutting away, and then the storm's rotating, and that's the hook that comes around back this way. And so Michael is right inside the hook. If this storm were to produce a funnel or a tornado, albeit it is at night, Michael is in the perfect position to see it, because he won't be obscured by rain as of right now. This storm looks pretty intense, though. Strong hail course and pretty big hail, warned for golf ball size hail. But what I have noticed a little bit in this storm is the uptick in the intensity, the lightning, the rotation, the mesocyclone, and also the hail size coming up a little bit. Now, what's happening here, there's a boundary that these storms have fired on. This is a warm front. You get south of the warm front, you're in the humidity. You get north of the warm front, which is almost kind of I-40. You get up near Calumet and El Reno, there's some drier, more stable air. But the problem is the winds that these boundaries are in are very conducive for rotation. So obviously, yes, we have the large hail threat that's going to impact a lot more people, but there is still a tornado threat. We're going to have to watch that real closely. So the two storms that I'm really focusing on radar is Michael's storm near Binger, and then the Elk City storm. Both those two have a tornado potential. Now, scale 1 to 5, where we at here, it's not a 1, it's not a 5. I'd put them both at about a 2, 2.5.
Yeah, and when we look downstream here, Jonathan, and just look at how these warnings are drawn, this one is drawn to the east. This one very well could be coming into Oklahoma City, and getting just looking at the analysis and looking at what the atmosphere is capable of doing is that as this storm moves to the east and as it goes a little bit later into the evening, the potential for the hail to get even larger is certainly going to be there with this storm. So right now warned on for golf balls, and I don't think we're done yet with watching this storm increase its hail size. I think the potential is certainly there for the hail to get even larger as the storm continues to move to the east. A little bit of rotation with it, not a whole lot. And as you heard Jonathan just mention, on a tornado scale, 1 to 5, it's going to be hovering on the low side. Not 0, but it's going to be on the low side. So we're watching that. Hail is falling from Sickles, Lokiba, south of Hinton. And you can see here, this is moving due east. This is going to come into southern Canadian County. Here's El Reno. So at this track, and just looking outside of the warning here, we're going to see this eventually go into Union City, Minco, Tuttle, eventually go into Newcastle, and then we're going to eventually start looking at places like Moore and Norman as this continues to move to the east. So that's what we're dealing with, some very large hail coming in later tonight with this storm continue to make its way to the east. Let's go back out to Elk City. I want to get an update with Nick Smith because last we talked to him, there was tennis ball size hail falling. Elk City, hail core now east. This one is. There's another one that's coming in right behind you that we see out by Sweetwater. That's where the large hail is. Out to Nick we go. Nick, give us an update on how things look right now in Elk City.
Yeah, Damon. We're actually, the hail has passed where we're at right now. And we're just getting some good wind coming out of this thing and also some heavy rain. So right now, I think it's looking a little bit better. But like you said, there's still more storms that are coming back this way. So definitely that Sweetwater storm. Looks like it might go a little south of town. But I'm still watching it, sitting here. We almost have it all. We almost have the sunroof fixed, and we're about ready to go and be back on a storm. Back to you.
Okay, we're going to watch that one. So new warning coming for a storm just west of Elk City. Elk City. So, okay. Storm number 1 came in with tennis ball size hail. Storm number 2, Elk City, came in with tennis ball size hail. And now storm number 3 is setting up and getting ready to come in as well. That's going to be out by Dempsey and Sweetwater. So it's going to be a long night, Elk City. And there's going to be a lot of cleanup happening with these hailstorms, as you see right here. So this storm moving down to the southeast. We hope this one can at least stay outside of the city limits of Elk City, because Elk City, you've had enough tonight, but you can see our cone right here does still bring it into Elk City by 10:15. So currently 9:15. Slow moving storm, at least this one is. We'll watch it though, see if it can pick up some speed, but that's still about an hour away or so with this storm moving to the east. So cluster of severe storms out across western Oklahoma. That threat continues with this line right here. Let's go back over to where Michael is going to be with his storm, because if you're watching in Oklahoma City, we've got a couple storms that we're watching. When it comes to storms being severe with large hail, this is it. We did have one that was down by Amber earlier that's now showing signs at least weakening below severe limits. Storm track to the east brings it into Lokiba at 9:21, Coger at 9:51, Minco and Union City a little after 10 o'clock. Michael's going to be right in this inflow notch that we see right here just west of Binger. Michael, out to you we go. Give us an update on how your storm's looking.
Yeah, Damon, we are right here with the storm. I would say that this storm is actually ramping up in intensity. It is getting stronger, and we are right here with the inflow notch, as you mentioned. So if anything does develop with it, it has a huge low-level mesocyclone. What I don't see is any real well-organized wall clouds or funnels or anything tornadic right at this moment. And velocities with the storm tend to support that, even though you look over at the intensities or the reflectivity on the radar and you go, oh my gosh, that's a hook echo. This is crazy. But it's really, from a velocity standpoint, this storm has not really picked up that much yet. But we are going to watch it really close because it's right on the doorstep of Binger. Damon, we're on the west side of Binger. I can see the city lights as I turn around and look. And so it's really close to Binger, and I would suggest everyone here really be aware of it. If you live a couple of miles north of Binger, you're probably going to be getting some fairly large hail, perhaps even up to golf ball size.
And Michael, I think that golf ball size hail is going to be a good starting point for this storm currently, but that it could very well increase in intensity as it moves into Oklahoma City. So we mentioned earlier that the risk for some very large hail was going to be a concern for the Oklahoma City Metro. That is still very much true, and it's coming in from a storm like this, currently dropping golf balls. You can see the inflow into this. Tornado risk is there. It's not warned on. It's not tornado warned on. But when you see an inflow notch like this is how it all begins. And so this is right on a boundary where at least the potential for this to produce a tornado is absolutely there. So our tornado index has been there throughout the afternoon and throughout the evening, and it is still there for storms like this moving east. And so again, Lukiba, Koger, Minko, and Union City from 9:21 to about 10:15 with this storm moving eastbound. And right now, golf ball size hail. Listen up, Oklahoma City, surrounding metro communities. I would not be surprised if we're looking at anywhere between golf balls and baseball size hail when this storm comes in to the metro. So that is still very much there, and it's from a storm like this that we're currently watching. So that's the latest right now with this storm. Jonathan, let's pull on out. Let's show everyone that's just now tuning in what's happening across the state. All the severe storms are west of Oklahoma City. So this storm, not severe that Chris Lee is on in Tuttle. It was severe at one point. It no longer is. So that's below severe level limits. But this storm is moving right down I-40. And when this moves in, hail threat absolutely there. Hail threat here. Another hail threat. This storm that's coming into Elk City that was just warned on is yet dropping once again tennis ball size hail. So tennis balls, golf balls. Moving east, moving southeast, beginning to accelerate in its speed down to the south. And when that happens, you begin to see a damaging wind threat coming in as well. 70-mile-an-hour winds with this one, baseball or tennis ball size hail, and this storm moving to the east will likely have at least some wind, but it's really going to have some pretty large hail as well. So there's a lot going on, and it's currently all west of I-35. It's all out across western Oklahoma. Woodward, you're good. Ponca City, you're good. Stillwater, so far, you're good. Now, you'll see some storms around sunrise, but for the time being, things are fairly quiet out across northern Oklahoma. But these storms demand our attention, and that's exactly what we're doing. So let's go back into this cell right here, now by Eakley, Koger, and Binger. Severe thunderstorm warning until 10:15. Hail core falling right here, moving to the east. You can see how our storm track is taking it due east. And so Koger, Union City, and Minko, 9:48 to 10:11 and 10:12. This is going to come into Oklahoma City. This storm right here has small hail. This one has large hail. And you can see here some rotation. Michael's looking right into it near Lukiba. Lukiba, Binger, that's where the hail is falling right now. Radar is picking up about quarter-size hail. But as those low-level winds begin to ramp up, we can see the hail potential out of this begin to ramp up as well as it moves back to the east. Let's go back out to Michael. Michael Armstrong in Storm Command. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Okay, hey, Steve, just so you know, you're going to have to kind of communicate.
Go back out to you in just a second. So Michael's talking to Steve Carano here, but that's the storm that, again, coming into western parts, extreme western parts of Oklahoma City is what this storm is, has some large hail, golf ball size hail here. So this storm moving eastbound, still have a bit of an inflow notch. It's not very well defined, but it is there, and Michael's going to be located just west of Binger. Let's go back out to Michael if we can. Michael, still watching your storm closely. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Right, Damon. Yeah, this notch, this inflow notch is coming right in over Binger. And I'll tell you one thing that we have noticed is not quite as much cloud-to-ground lightning, but a little bit more structure in the storm there. And if you look at it, if you watch real close in the lightning here, again, we're just on the west side of Binger and a really pronounced lowered area coming in over Binger. The one thing that's good about it is I don't see any significant rotation in that at this time, but it's a scary look if you live in Binger, no doubt, and you look at it. So this thing is turned a little bit more to the right now, and it's going to come over more toward Kogar and then eventually over toward Newcastle and the south side, maybe even toward Moore if it comes down Highway 152 toward Mustang, if it keeps moving due east. And so I'll tell you, this will pose a threat of hail in the metro if it maintains its intensity and track.
Yeah, we're going to watch that one. Again, that's got Oklahoma City written all over it. What is happening in Elk City is tennis ball size hail. That's now well east of you. I know Elk City, that it was pretty rough there, but we're not done yet because as we look northwest, we see yet another round of storms coming in from Berlin, Grimes, north of Sayre, tracking down to the southeast. So we have Shane, we have Nick, and we have Buck, all of them right here out across western Oklahoma with these storms that are moving, that are still moving back in. Elk City, at least for a while, this should be the last storm that you have to deal with until early in the morning. But this is still a storm that has a lot of hail in it, some very large hail in it as well. As a matter of fact, when we put on our track here, you can see what our storm impact graphic is currently showing you. So that is some huge hail right here. That's going to be easily pushing tennis balls. That's the hail core that just came right on through. Here's another hail core that's going to be west of Burns Flat. And then this storm out by Sweetwater, this too is warned on for tennis ball size hail. All this moving down to the southeast. So this is our storm impact graphic. What it does is it allows us to clean up the radar for you, show you everything you need and nothing you don't. So what we have right here is our storm impact showing you exactly where the hail. There's a hail, there's a hail, and then there's a hail. That storm does have at least some shear with it. That's going to be in between Mayfield and Sweetwater coming in. So big hailstorms happening out across western Oklahoma. And then we're starting to watch at least that threat move a little bit farther to the east. This has been still a big hail threat night. And as we go back down the road here, I want to show you what we see happening over by Lukiba. That's our hail core. And we still have the threat of this storm to ramp up in intensity as it moves east. So if you're watching in Oklahoma City, if you're watching down by the airport, down by South OKC, Moore, and Norman, this is going to be the storm that we're going to watch. Still some areas of rotation very close to Binger, and not very tight, but it's definitely still there. This is one that is still going to need to be watched closely. So we'll watch that one. Let's go back out to Elk City because I know we have Buck and Canute. We have Nick in Elk City, and we have Shane in Elk City as well. I want to get an update right now from our crews, and we're going to go out to that storm in just a second, but still finding at least an area of rotation with this. You can see our radar. When you see those spinning rings, it's a low-level lock. We're sampling at least some low-level rotation with this storm currently over Burns Flat and a lot of large hail. I mean, there is some big hail that is going to be within this. Let's go out to, if Nick Smith is available, I want to talk to Nick, because Nick is going to be at least in between these two storms. Nick, give us an update on what you're seeing in Elk City.
Home and here in Elk City, people are just trying to get back home right now in between storms. So right now, people are just kind of getting back out. I've been trying to warn people that there's another storm coming this way, and definitely get to where they're going to be if they can get their cars underneath in a garage or get somewhere safe. Definitely do that before this next storm gets here. But we are our sunroof is fixed, and we're ready to go now, Damon.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. So we're Elk City. Let's hope this is it. But we still have at least one more storm to watch out for. There's some large hail that came into that zone. We still have some large hail coming in just west. Let's go back to the east, and let's put a storm track, Jonathan, into Oklahoma City for this storm that we've been tracking, that Michael's been on, that's happening right now. That's going to be out by Binger, Albert, north of Gracemont, because this is moving to the east. And whenever you see that black on the radar, that's going to be our radar beam that's hitting some very large hail. That's going to be up aloft. So when you see that, that's some big hail. Atmosphere is going to keep that big hail as it comes into Oklahoma City. So as we extend the storm track in here, you can see Union City at 10:11. We go into Tuttle at 10:28. Mustang 10:37. Bridge Creek 10:39. Overholser by 10:45. Wiley Post, Bethany, and War Acres right before 11 o'clock. All these communities that we have right here, what do you need to know? We're talking about up to, as of right now, golf ball size hail. All the potential for those storms to increase their hail sizes is certainly going to be there as this storm continues to move eastbound. So, Jonathan, you're very good at analyzing radar. Anything stand out about just this big old cluster of storms that we have west of I-35?
That's a great question there, Damon. So obviously we've been really tracking the hail threat, but these storms, again, my concern is that they're latched onto a boundary. If you want to talk tornadoes, you got to talk about the low-level winds. The winds in that area right now are out of the southeast, and there's a warm front, and the storms are literally attached to the warm front. The warm front is kind of draped just like this. You get north of that warm front, you still have southeast winds, but the humidity really drops off, so you lack the fuel. The problem is that these storms are latched onto that boundary. That boundary is lifting to the north a little bit, and to the south, you have a strong influx of high humidity. So imagine you got these kind of like souped up race cars, and they have a lot of fuel going into them, okay? So if they were to detach from the warm front, get north of the warm front, separated by, 20, 50 miles, they'd run out of gas. That's not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that these storms are latched on that boundary, and they're strong. They're putting out the big hail, and the two storms that I'm watching for rotation, Michael's storm, which Michael's in the right spot, and we've noticed there's an uptick in the storm, but there was nothing at the base of the storm to indicate an imminent threat of a tornado, but the storm is rotating. Between those two storms, between the Binger storm and then the Burns Flat storm, this is a storm that went through Elk City that produced a lot of hail. This storm is actually getting a little bit more organized. It's the core of it's a little bit stronger. The mesocyclone's pretty strong. There were two areas of rotation in that storm that I noticed, the old area rotation getting wrapped up into it and kind of dying, a new mesocyclone forming, or a new engine to the storm kind of forming between Burns Flat and Dill City. So between those two, between the Binger storm and the Burns Flat storm, I really think the Burns Flat storm might be a little bit stronger. It is 9:30 right now, Damon, and KOCO 5 News at 10 o'clock starts right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's the big headline right now. The big story is going to be this just line of severe storms that we see west of here. And another threat, and we haven't really talked a whole lot about this, but given the track of these storms, we're going to see a pretty big flooding threat coming in as well later this evening, coming into Oklahoma City. So easily 3 inches of rain could be on the low side of what we have coming in, as this entire just kind of complex of storms is about to just swing its way through Oklahoma City, Chickasha, Norman, eventually Pauls Valley, Paola, down to Ardmore. So storm track moving down to the southeast, and a little bit of rotation with this. Dill City, 9:32, Godibo, 10:13, Mountain View, 10:23, Alfalfa at 10:32. You can see that inflow notch, and while the rotation is not very tight, it's certainly there and certainly warrants at least our attention as well. Large hail still continues to fall with this storm and still warned on for golf ball size hail. Abigail, it has been a night filled of very large hail across western Oklahoma. That threat's moving into central Oklahoma, but we're getting some damage pictures coming in now.
I want to show you this first from our storm chaser, Nick Smith, who had his sunroof blown out. Damon, this is what it looks like. It just shattered. And then that hailstone next to a golf ball, obviously larger than a golf ball there. And he told me, I've been talking to Nick, a lot of times when he takes these pictures, they've been on the ground for a while, so they've had a little bit of time to melt. So imagine that even a little bit bigger. That's his sunroof. He is okay. He and his team, they're doing okay. And then Damon, too, we're talking about the Walmart there in Elk City. Their skylights were busted by the hail. That's a picture from Nick inside that Walmart. Skylight from Walmart busted out. There's glass all over the bottom of the floor. We are told that the employees moved to a room, so everybody is okay. Damon, quickly, while I have the time, I want to just reiterate, do not go to a hospital to seek shelter. Those hospitals are not taking guests or visitors because of COVID-19. So I would hate for someone to drive to a local hospital, think that they are going to be safe, and then turned away. Damon, back over to you.
Yeah, certainly, an added hazard to what we're currently dealing with in this current state of news, and so in this current state of just what we've been talking about for a couple weeks now. So, anyways, severe thunderstorm warnings continue. We currently have 3 of them that are ongoing across the state, and what we are seeing now is at least these storms still have some very large hail in it. So, the storm just west of Oklahoma City that currently has golf ball size hail in it. This storm is the big one. This is the one that has up to tennis ball size hail in it. That's moving down to the southeast. And then this storm as well, out across western Oklahoma, has some tennis ball size hail in it as well. All of these storms are now beginning to move down to the southeast. So that's going to at least allow them to pick up their speeds just a little bit. We do see at least some rotation, not very tight, but it is there, as Jonathan highlights, just south of Dill City, northeast of Sentinel, headed straight towards Rocky. And with this southeasterly push in these storms that we're seeing now in just the last couple radar scans, This is going to allow the storms to accelerate, but also we're going to more than likely at least see these storms continue to show some sort of rotation. You can see our storm impact shows some shear that is happening right now. That is going to be just northwest of Rocky. So not tornado warned, but as we showed you earlier throughout the afternoon, on KOCO 5 News, the tornado risk was certainly going to exist and continue with these storms. And as I just mentioned moments ago, we have a big-time rain threat coming in as well. We haven't seen a whole lot of rain lately. However, we're now in springtime. These storms can drop 3 inches of rain just like that, and some of us are certainly headed in that direction. So storm track with this cell moving down to the southeast, current track with some big hail. You can see there's 3-inch size hail. That is larger than tennis balls. Cordell, 936. We go into Alfalfa at 1010, down to Washita at 1039, and Anadarko at 1050 with this whole complex moving down to the south. Large hail, strong winds, lots of rain with this one right here. So that's moving down to the southeast. Let's go back into what we'll just label it the eastern storm, Michael storm that he's on. Because if you're watching in Oklahoma City, I know you've been hearing our reports, and the latest at least track with this shows at least a little bit of a southeasterly jog with this. At one point it was moving due east. Now in the last couple of radar scans, we're seeing it begin to move a little bit more down to the southeast, which at this point would still bring it into Pecasset and into Cleveland County, Moore and Norman, a little bit more than, say, Edmond and Oklahoma City. But at this current track, comes into Coger at 9:51, Pecasset 10:15, Amber 10:24, Tuttle, and then Mustang at about 10:35 with this storm. You've seen an uptick in our hail over Lukiba. See that white there in the last radar scan? That's an increase in hail size. It's probably pushing more like golf balls. Storm command's right in this. Let's go out to Michael right now. Michael, your storm taking more of an easterly, southeasterly push. Give us an update on what you're seeing. Okay, we'll get back out to Michael in just a moment. So, but Michael, you can see he's going to be right in the heart of the storm. Still seeing a bit of an inflow with this over Binger. So cannot rule out the tornado threat completely with this. It's very difficult to ever rule out a tornado threat in Oklahoma during the springtime. So, but when you see a radar signature like this, you see that inflow right over Binger, hail core, rotation, storm still needs to be warned on, and it absolutely is golf ball size hail. Current track to the east. If you're in Mustang, 1034, golf ball size hail. Where that rotation is where the green and the red come up against each other, and where you see this notch right here. So that's going to be right over Binger. Moving to the east is not that far away from coming into Pecasset, and then eventually Mustang and Newcastle. That is what's left of a storm that we had over Anadarko about an hour and a half ago. It's not really doing a whole lot anymore. So that's now beginning to weaken. But as Jonathan draws out the cone here with this cell moving down to the southeast, we send it into Will Rogers at about 1045, West Moore on the west side of Moore at 1053. All these communities right here, what do you need to know? Still warned on for golf ball size hail and some strong winds. Sayre storm has some very large hail. That thing's rotating pretty well as well. That thing's, I tell you what, if I'm in Sayre right now, I'm concerned about this. Jonathan, you're highlighting right there exactly where that inflow notch is. What are your thoughts on this storm?
Damon, that's why I pushed the radar over that way. Little concern in the uptick in that storm. And so, again, we were mainly tracking the Burns Flat storm and then the Binger storm, and now storm number 3 way on the west side out near Sayre. Now, that will likely miss Elk City, but that is also a discrete supercell. So basically, it's one big updraft, one big engine, very good or efficient at making large hail, and also has that tornado risk. When it comes to the winds at the low levels, they are still pretty conducive, pretty good. We have southeast surface winds. So, it's sometimes when we're looking at the surface winds, if I have a wind out of the north or I have a wind out of the west or the southwest, it doesn't really help the storm at the low levels produce a tornado. But when we have southeast surface winds, which we have right now, these storms have a lot of what we call low-level shear. That's changing of wind direction with height. And this storm, you can clearly see that just in the reflectivity component. So when I say reflectivity, that we're basically looking at the intensity of the storm. But what you can clearly we see here, and I'll draw that in, the storm itself, one big hail core, just 2 miles north of Elk City. That's where all those lightning strikes are at, right? That's the big updraft right there, and all the hail's coming down. But the storm, the updraft is so strong, the storm is rotating. It's pulling in that dry air into it, cutting away that notch. That's called an inflow notch. And then the backside, the storm's rotating, and it's pulling that moisture around the backside, and that's the hook echo. So just clearly on reflectivity, we can see that storm is rotating. Now, I'll say this, with radar technology, the radars that we're using, they're a little bit further away from the storm. So as the Earth curves, the radar is actually shooting up at a higher level of the storm. So I'm not actually looking down at ground level. I'm looking up at about 8 to 10,000 feet up. So we're looking really pretty much at the core of the storm, not necessarily at the low levels. But that signature right there is a pretty, telltale signature of a strong rotating updraft. Now, that's the intensity part. Let me go over to the velocity part, get on the right radar here, and you can see what are we looking for? I'm looking for inbounds and outbounds. I'm looking for the winds to be right next to each other. So you have the greens here and the reds here. Those are really tight. We call that gate to gate. So that would be, if I were to pinpoint and translate, where do I see in the storm down to the ground, where would it be something of concern of rotation? That would be about 1 mile west of Elk City. So even though it's not a tornado warning, it is a severe thunderstorm warning in an environment that could produce a tornado. So, for example, I always put things in perspective about my family. My family, we have a lot of family in Piedmont and up in Kingfisher. If I had family in Sayre, I'd say, hey, here's the deal. Really watch this storm. It's a supercell. It's turning. There's a good signature. Scale 1 to 5, where are we at for a tornado threat? Maybe, 1.5 to 2, but it's definitely ramping up. Take your severe thunderstorm precautions and be ready to take your tornado precautions if the storm ramps up a little bit more. That severe thunderstorm warning is going to go for about another 20 minutes, but that's the third storm, which has really ramped up here in the last about 40 minutes. And then, Damon, by the way, here you go. Here's another supercell going up near Hobart. Not warned, but that has another hook echo on it. So the environment very conducive for rotating storms this evening.
Yeah, and this storm is increasing as well, and so is the storm just west of Oklahoma City. I just sent out a tweet just seconds ago, and it says South Oklahoma City, Moore, and Norman. Storm west of town is beginning to show an increase in the hail. It is this one right here that Michael is oncoming in the Cougar, and if you just, when we look at each and every single radar scan by scan, and you begin to piece them together, you start to see at least there is some rotation. It's weak, but it is there. But also the hail, that white that we see there picking up, that's an uptick. That shows that this storm is increasing. And so if I'm in South OKC, Southwest Oklahoma City, Mustang, Cleveland County, if you live in that area, know that this storm is starting to show an uptick, an increase in hail sizes. Originally warned on for golf balls. I've been saying for a while now that I would not be surprised if this thing gets even larger with its hail sizes. And it's doing that now. 2-inch size hail, that's about the size of a lime. So headed eastbound, this goes in towards the Xerox plant, Wheatland. Wheatland, by the way, is going to be just west of the airport. 1106 Outlet Mall, 1108 Airport, 1113. We go to OCCC Dell Campus and State Fair Park by 1116. I'm telling you right now, it's currently about 9:40. You have about a little over 1 hour slow movement of the storm before this storm's going to come in and drop some huge hail across South OKC and in Cleveland County. Everything that we told you today, yesterday, myself, Michael, Jonathan, Steve, Eric, is that this was going to be a hail event for Oklahoma City, and that is absolutely coming together. And this is going to be the storm that's more than likely going to do it as it moves to the east. I'm hoping it can weaken. Really wanted to weaken because this could certainly put a new roof on a lot of our houses. So let's just hope that this thing can weaken, but that's an uptick even more so. Now 3-inch size hail. Now we're getting larger than tennis balls coming out of this storm. That can put a lot of holes in the roof. That can put a lot of holes in the ground. And that right there is just not what any of us want to see, no matter whether or not it's Binger, Cougar, Mustang, Tuttle, Moore, Norman, you name it. So let's hope this storm can weaken. Abigail, still watching this big hailstorm, but hail has been the big story tonight.
It absolutely has. It's been damaging as well. We showed you what happened at the Walmart in Elk City. Of course, our own First Alert storm chaser Nick Smith losing his sunroof. Everyone is okay, but I want to show you a couple of new pictures, Damon, that we are getting in. This also from Elk City. You see several hailstones there, and some of them are kind of those gnarly looking hailstones, you know, several little ones that have melted and reconnected to each other. So there's that one. And then this really large. Look at those. That looks to be tennis ball, maybe even larger. That from Kelsey in Elk City. Also, Damon, I'm continuing to track those power outages for you, looking at the co-ops, OG&E, PSO. We're starting to see more of those power outages come in, as you can imagine, with these storms, the hail and the strong winds as well. Make sure you have the KOCO app or some way for us to give you the first alert if your power goes out. Damon?
Yeah, great advice there. And in this generation, I mean, you know, you can always get weather information delivered to you at your fingertips. Make sure you just have plenty of juice in your phone tonight, because you bring any storm into Oklahoma City, it's going to knock out power. And I do see that that certainly being a threat. So hailstorm, 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 all lined up. This storm is moving east. These storms are moving down to the southeast. So really anywhere from Elgin, Apache, Chickasha, into South OKC, this is going to be the zone. It's been fairly quiet tonight. Mom, Dad, I know kids, they do not like thunderstorms. They're not going to like these one bit at all. So just be prepared. And given the movement of the storms, if you have any west-facing windows, go ahead and just get out of that room for a bit as these storms come in, because the way that this hail is going to fall is going to likely shatter those windows. You heard Abigail, you've heard Nick, our storm chasers tonight report on just the number of windows that have been blown out. These can certainly do that. We're not just talking about dimes and nickel size hail out of these. We're talking about sporting ball size hail for sure. So current movement with this taking a little bit more of an easterly, southeasterly jog brings it in the Coger at 9:57, Minko 10:20, Pecasset, Amber, and Tuttle at about 10:20 to 10:35. These communities right here know that this storm is dropping larger than golf balls, moving to the east-southeast. And at this current track, at least this would likely stay out of Edmond. It would stay out of northern Oklahoma County, southern Oklahoma County, Cleveland County, northern Grady County, northern McLean County. This is certainly going to be one to watch as this moves down to the southeast. It's been fairly quiet so far. I do expect, though, that is going to quickly change as these storms move in. And given the slow movement of this storm especially, this could easily drop quite a bit of rain and lead to an additional flooding threat. Let's go out to Michael Armstrong in Storm Command. Michael, watching your storm closely with a large hail threat. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, this storm has really got its act together now. It's intensified considerably. Confirmed ping pong ball size hail has hit Binger on the northwest side of town, and this storm is right turning a little bit more, Damon. I am noticing that it's moving more to the east-southeast. That may spare some of the metro, but it could still be really tough on areas down around Blanchard, Newcastle, perhaps even more Norman. If it were to hold together, I think it would. Some of the hail might still clip Norman. So this is a powerful storm, and the fact that it is right turning tells me, from a meteorological standpoint, that it is getting more intense.
It is. And when you hear Michael mention right turning, what that means is that instead of it turning down like this, it begins to turn a little bit more to the east a bit here. And so at least given that track, it's actually going to be, well, given just the movement of how it's going, it's strengthening, okay? And so you can see here, we've got some large hail radar right now, pinging 3-inch size hail. And again, this is turning more east-southeast. And so that right there is going to put a lot of holes in the ground. Northeast of Binger, and then this is east of Binger. So Binger, this is moving away from you, at least this hailstorm is, but I'm telling you right now, we're going to see a big hail storm. We've been telling you that for a while. This is it right here. And so we've got other hailstorms out across western Oklahoma. Those are dropping southeast, but this is still moving east-southeast. And so if you're near OCCC, Westmore, Southmore, Cleveland County, down by Blanchard, Middleburg, Cole, Dibble, Norman, this right here, Minko as well, this is not what you want to see Absolutely. No one ever wants to see this, but you especially don't want to see this right here with this hail that's coming in. So just a big-time hailstorm that continues with this as it's now moving to the east-southeast. And when you see that black, when you see that white on the radar, that right there, that's a radar beam that's picking up on the hailstones that are going to be about that big. So that's why they pop out with that color as much as they are. Severe thunderstorm warning just issued down to the south. Another severe thunderstorm warning, large hail coming in with this cell down by Godibo. A little bit of rotation with this one, not very tight. There it is over Babs. Got a couple inflow notches within this. Moving to the east-southeast, goes into Sedan at about 10:25. The way that these towns are set up out here, you stay 1 mile outside of town, you stay 100 yards outside of town, and you're back over some open land. I know that's someone's land, and we care about that land, but we hope that if we can at least keep the most damaging part of this storm, it's at least away from a lot of homes and structures. So we'll keep a close eye on this one right here. Another big cluster of hail over Cordell. There is buck, corn, lots of hail as well. Lots of areas of rotation, not very tight rotation. However, it doesn't take much, at least for us to see at least a quick spin up out here. And so our tornado index for this evening still remains on the low side, but not zero with this storm. So there's Buck, there's Shane. Storm commands over to the east. He's going to be on the storm that we're watching as well. Hawker, Sayer, big hailstorm with this one. This one has tennis ball size hail. And you can see our crews out on the left, Minko, Dill City, Carter. Right now, these storms are moving mainly out across western Oklahoma down to the southeast. So, Cloud Chief, 9:57, Alfalfa, 10:17. We go into Pine Ridge, Washita, Anadarko by 10:30 and 11 o'clock. What I love about at least being able to clean up the radar is you can see exactly where the hail is. There's a big hail core. There's a hail core. Really stands out clean. And again, trying to just clean up the radar for you so it doesn't look like a bucket of spilled paint all over the place. But this right here is where we have a large hail core. And then we are seeing at least some shear that is ongoing just north of Rocky. So purples, whites, and blacks, hail. Reds and yellows, that's going to be at least some spinning in the atmosphere with this and some rotation with the storm, and that's exactly where it is. Not tornado warned, but still needs to be watched, and that's why we're here watching this every bit along the way. So certainly the hail threat continues with the storms. We've been getting a lot of your hail reports coming in, and we're getting a lot of large hail coming in out of this as well. That's running anywhere between limes up to tennis balls and up to baseballs. I do want to get Shane Helton on with this storm that's going to be out by Sayer, Hawker, south of Merritt, over Carter. This is surging down to the southeast. You see the storm track here from Carter to Sentinel to Lone Wolf at about 10 to 10:50. Big hail with this, some strong winds as well. Shane Helton, out to you we go. Shane, give us an update on what you're seeing. Okay, we'll get Shane back on. You know how cell service is out across western Oklahoma. It can be certainly hit and miss at times. So that storm moving down to the southeast, and we'll continue to watch it pretty closely. Let's go back out, Jonathan. Let's go to the eastern storm that's going to be out by Gracemont, the one that's most likely going to impact the OKC area. You can see with the big picture where we are here. And so it's this storm right here. Chris Lee, Storm Command, watching this storm near Binger. Still has some very large hail that is going to be in it. Still finding an inflow notch as well. A little bit of outflow coming out as well with this one, but still getting some rotation very close to Koger and east of Binger. Not very well defined, but does have at least that inflow notch. And so Chris Lee and Storm Command are in the perfect location for this and some very large hail. As you can see with our storm track, we're pulling it a little farther to the east and southeast. So with this cone, we're looking at more. Let's go out to Chris Lee. Chris Lee, go.
We're not going live.
Yeah, I got a funnel in that area you're talking about right there by Koger. We're south of the storm, west of Pocasset, and in lightning flashes you can see a funnel-shaped appendage down towards the ground. It's only in lightning flashes that I can see it. Doesn't appear to have like violent rotation. It is leaned quite a bit over to one side, but definitely did see a funnel-shaped lowering in that area where we've been looking at the rotation, Damon.
Okay, we're looking at your shot, so we need those lightning strikes to really help us out a bit here. But Chris Lee, you've been chasing for a long, long time. probably longer than anyone in the entire state. So taking your reports very seriously. So Chris Lee reporting a bit of a lowering there, has a funnel that's going to be in that area. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, we see it there from time to time. Depends on where the lightning strike is out of this, but definitely that's exactly where we were just highlighting on the radar where that inflow notch just so happened to be. So we're going to keep a close eye on this. Let's do a 2-box. We can definitely see that. Hey, Chris, how well defined does that look to you?
It is very well defined. It is leaned over, so I'm not exactly sure that it's a feature as a tornado. It does look like a funnel-shaped appendage coming both ways to the ground. I can't see any kind of rotation with it because I'm only seeing it very briefly in lightning flashes. But that is the area that we've been looking for the rotation and showing on radar. But it is very close to the ground, if not on the ground, right now from where we're sitting looking. We're about 5 miles west of Pocasset. We're looking to the northwest towards the Koger area.
Yeah, Chris. So we have your shot, and we see it, and we have exactly what's highlighted right here on our radar. Rotation has ramped up just in the last radar scan, so you can see it right here. And so in the last scan, and our rotation tracker has picked up quite a bit as well. So Chris, what you're seeing and what you see is exactly what our radar is telling us, which this thing is certainly spinning. It's certainly spinning right there. So moving to the east, Minko, Pocasset, Tuttle, 1030 to 1050. This is right on a boundary where certainly the potential for this to increase even more so is really going to be there. But we definitely see that. Chris, you've got eyes on this. How's it looking from your vantage point?
Well, I don't see any kind of a debris cloud. That's what we look for when we're trying to call to say if it's a tornado or not. I do not see any kind of debris or anything coming up from the ground. It looks like it may very well be very close to the ground or even in contact with the ground. I can't tell, but I also can't tell what kind of rotation there is with it. I'm not seeing any. The other thing we look for at night is power flashes from the ground if it were to cross any kind of power lines or anything like that. And I am not seeing anything like that. But that's the area that we're looking at as very concerning type of shape coming out of the clouds in an area where there would be rotation because it doesn't have it has an appearance of a funnel very close to the ground.
Well, Chris Lee, I just want you to know, look, it's been a little while since we've had a tornado warning, but I feel like at least the rotation with this is beginning to increase a bit as well. So I would not be surprised if this is going to become our next tornado warning with what we are seeing on our radar and then what we see coming in from your picture right there. So, again, our rotation is going to be right here south of Koger. So there's Storm Command. There's Chris Lee. You cannot have more technology on this storm than what we have right now. And again, you can see our rotation trackers right there showing exactly where that area is. If you're in Koger, you're getting into the innermost room of your house and you're going to be going away from windows, innermost room, because this storm is certainly showing an uptick. And when you see the lightning flashes right in front of you, again, it really gives you good visuals to just how low to the ground this thing is. I mean, this thing looks like it is touching the ground. So, Chris Lee, you've got eyes on it. What stands out to you right now? Anything?
Yeah, but it is very close to the ground. Like you said, it is not touching the ground. At times we can see flashes of lightning, and it appears that you do see it come to a point before it gets to the ground. On the other hand, having said that, there are times when in the daytime you can see that there's debris coming up underneath something like that. You just can't see it during at night. It's very difficult to see any kind of continuity because you're just kind of getting flashes. But I do not see a column that's touching the ground, a cloud, a feature that goes all the way to the ground. But it is very, very close to the ground. It's obviously a feature that is rotating, and it's right in that area, of course, where we've been looking for a tornado. I keep looking to see if there's any kind of debris, because that debris coming up off the ground has kind of a signature of itself. It's not a point where the tornado comes. It kind of splatters out in all different directions. So I don't see that right now. But on the other hand, if it's not hitting anything that it would be picking up in the clouds, then you wouldn't see that. So just at night, it's so difficult to see exactly what's going on. But we do have something that is very, very close to the ground in that area where we're picking up rotation on radar.
Okay, well, we are definitely watching this one because it is certainly very concerning, and with the 360 cams that we have here, and with just the technology that we have on this, we're gonna keep you very much well aware of what is happening with this storm. So you can see we've got Storm Command, we've got Chris Lee. They're looking right into the heart of this storm. There is that inflow notch. Still finding that hail core as well in rotation. Still watching closely for the threat of this storm, producing some large hail, still moving east, and it's got Tuttle, Pecasset, Amber, all in line with this storm. So we have not only do we have this storm, we've got a lot of storms to watch closely because we have baseball-sized hail that's still falling out of these storms out across western Oklahoma. So these storms, when you have your severe storms, I mean, these are as severe as you can get. So baseball-sized hail in this cell right here that is coming down in the Carter. You can see exactly where Shane Helton is going to be located with this. So baseball-sized hail with these storms, the hail cores are actually increasing in size out across western Oklahoma. We're going to have a lot of new roofs put on Oklahoma homes when all is said and done. Some area of rotation, this thing is still spinning as well. Shane, this storm, some huge hail. Tennis balls, baseballs, give us an update on what you're seeing.
When we went through Carter, they had ball-sized hail. Right now, we're in a heavy rain shaft that is just right here on the south side of Carter, mixed with hail that's about the size of dimes. The wind is blowing probably about 40 mile an hour, and we're pushing to the south trying to get out of this.
Okay. Well,
I know those of you in front of us, it actually cracked windshield a little bit here. So yeah, this is a pretty intense storm. I know we were watching a wall cloud for a while, and the hail's getting larger here. It's getting back up to the golf ball size again. We're just south of Carter, a couple miles, and yeah, we're pushing south, trying to get out of this so we can turn around and get back on it. Get a good view back into that wall cloud, see if it's doing anything. Back to you, Damon.
Okay. So some big hail happening out across western Oklahoma with that storm right here. Let's go back over to the eastern storm. We had the eastern storm, the middle storm, the western storm. This is what we're calling the eastern storm. Michael Armstrong looking right into this. Michael, this warning continues. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
And that is one sign that I always watch for when I'm out chasing right now. Huge lowered area, and this is the same lowering that Chris was looking at. This area is very pronounced, and it is very near, I see a community of Spring Creek, so it's along County Road 1210. For those of you who live out in Minco and Pocasset, you know where 1210 is. It's halfway in between Minco and Pocasset. I'm looking due west, and Damon, I think this is the strongest that this storm has been since I've been on it.
Yeah, we definitely see that there, Michael, out near Minco. And again, when that wind is coming in, that's certainly concerning. If you're watching in Oklahoma City right now, you can certainly hear the rumbles of thunder happening. We have some storms kind of up near Guthrie, but there's not really a whole lot just north of Guthrie. So we are getting lightning strikes from these storms that are over Oklahoma County, and so it's getting pretty noisy. But these storms are the most intense storms are still west. It's a big, just complex of storms. We have here lots of hail. That's going to be a hail threat. You can see here right now some lightning strikes that are almost displaced by about 40 miles away from the storm. That's why we always say, look, if you can hear thunder, go indoors because you're pretty close to some lightning strikes. And so there's a lot of electricity in these storms. Mom, Dad, the kids are not going to like this. The dogs are not going to like this as this storm continues to move to the east-southeast. And this is putting it in track right now from Minco, Pocasset, Amber, Tuttle, Bridge Creek. And that toll booth there that's the reading there for the first toll booth that you hit. That's west of Norman and north of Chickasha. That's some large hail. It's a small pocket of large hail, but there it is right now near Coger and in between Coger and Albert. This is going to be quite the hailstorm that's going to impact Cleveland County, Grady County, McLean County. I'm talking to you, Moore, Norman, Mustang, Tuttle, Minco, down towards Blanchard and Newcastle. This storm continues to move down to the southeast. Jonathan, we continue to see the hail continue to ramp up in size with this. What stands out to you right now? What are you looking at right now on the radar?
Looking at a bunch of things. So not only looking at radar and looking at these 4 discrete storms that are going up, I'm also looking at the atmosphere that those storms are in. This storm near the Koger area still latched on this boundary, this warm front. You get north of it, like in Oklahoma City, we have dew points only in the 50s, but you get south of the boundary, you get dew points which are in the actually the upper 60s in southern Oklahoma. So this storm is right on the cusp. It has if it was turning to the north, I would expect it would collapse and die and drop all its hail out of it, but it still has good inflow into it. So we've seen that in the uptick in the storm with all the lightning, the hail core. The storm, the top of the storm is over 40,000 feet. And because of the way the atmosphere is set up today, and it didn't get that hot today, our freezing levels are not as high up in the atmosphere. So these storms don't need to be that high in order to get into the freezing level to produce a large hail. That's why they've been real prolific hail makers. They've been putting out some really big hail. And so again, this storm, for Koger, scale of like 1 to 5 for rotation, it's at a 2. It doesn't have a tornado tag with the severe thunderstorm warning, but we're watching it very closely. When it comes to the atmosphere itself, this one might be on the fringe of having the best fuel as we look back to the west. And I look at some other storms. I mean, we got 3 other supercells out there. It's 4 total. You got the one that went through Elk City that is over in Cloud Chief right now. That is just a high precipitation-based storm, rotating, putting out big hail. You have a storm south of that near Hobart. This is a discrete supercell, which we're going to have a cell merger here. And one of 2 things can happen with the Hobart storm and the Cloud Chief storm. Either they keep separated, and they just parallel each other. Do they collide and kill each other, or do they collide and enhance each other? We're going to have to watch that. And Buck King is on that Camalti Hobart storm, watching that one. And then the one that Shane's on, that storm is a pretty strong supercell, which just dropped some baseball-sized hail in Sayre. So again, I would be more concerned about when it comes to the tornado threat, honestly, the storm that Shane is on and the storm that Buck is on. Those 2 are the southern fringe into the higher humidity. They all have conducive winds for rotating, but it's all about the fuel. So if you were to twist my arm, Dame, and say, Jonathan, pick a storm that you think has the highest tornado risk, my money would be on the Godibo storm right now because it's a southern one, it's in the highest humidity and untouched atmosphere. So I'll have to watch that real closely.
Yeah, nothing is blocking that inflow coming into that storm right there. So we'll have to watch that. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued that will include. It's going to be what we call the easternmost storm right here. That's going to be making its way into South OKC. You'll notice that the newest warning, you can kind of get a good idea as to how this storm is tracking, is that the previous warning, the polygon was up here. The newest warning, now the polygon has shifted down to the south a little bit. This is going to bring it more in line with those from Moore, Belmar, Norman, Newcastle, down to Goldsby and Cole. Still, though, warned on for ping pong up to golf ball size hail, and even the potential that the hail could even get even larger. But we're still dealing with sporting ball size hailstones out of this storm, which is why the risk is definitely there for this to do a lot of damage, a lot of hail damage. When you're talking about hailstones that big, you can certainly deal with. You can certainly get a new roof, and no one's ready to pay for that right now. So Minko, Tuttle, Bridge Creek, Toll Booth, and Middleburg still finding a very large hail core. Now, this large hail core where you see the 2-inch size, about the size of a good-sized line that you would use there. Like to see in the latest radar scan, it just went away. But this thing's pulsating back and forth, where it's going back and forth between half dollars, ping pong ball, lime size. That can certainly do a good amount of damage, and it's not very widespread. It's only about 1 mile by 1 mile, it appears like, with our radar here telling us exactly where it is. But still, it is going to be there with this storm as it makes its way into Cleveland County and into South OKC and down into Goldsby, Washington, Cole, and eventually as you go down towards Pauls Valley. So let's hope that this storm can continue to weaken. That's exactly what we want to see. So finding some area of rotation, that inflow, Chris Lee and Storm Command both looking right into this. Let's go out to Michael. Michael's looking into this storm, moving down to the southeast. Still has some very large hail in it. Michael, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, this is a powerful supercell thunderstorm. This is the strongest this storm has been for the entire time I've been on it, and that's, over 3 hours that I've been watching this storm. That should tell you something right there. This is the most intense that this storm has been its entire life cycle. There are tons of powerful cloud-to-ground lightning strikes coming out of the front side of the storm. There's a huge lowering back to the west. Now, thankfully, I don't see anything that looks like anything tornadic right now. We are actually moving south, so we are moving down toward Pocasset, and I'll tell you, this thing continues to kind of turn to the right and move to the east-southeast. That's going to take it more down toward Amber and the Blanchard area. I would be monitoring this storm super closely. If you can hear me and you live in Blanchard, just go ahead and be ready to take precautions in case this storm continues to intensify and spin up. Now, it may kind of hold right where it's at, and that would be great if it does not produce a tornado or anything like that. I'm just telling you, as far as its life cycle goes, this storm is probably right about its peak intensity so far, and that's going to include some very large hail around Kogar, and that hail track is going to track toward Bridge Creek and eventually over toward the south side of Newcastle and Blanchard based on this current projection.
Yeah, and so if you're watching in Blanchard, if you're watching in Pocasset, as you heard Michael just mention, this is still a powerful storm. I mean, this thing is still increasing in hail size, and you get to a point with a hailstorm where pretty much the damage is all the same, whether you're looking at golf balls, tennis balls, baseballs, you name it. When you're dealing with sporting ball size hail, that's going to do a lot of damage. Cars, new windshields, new roof. My goodness, and that's what we have here in Oklahoma. So big hail core right over Kogar right now, making his way down to the southeast. With every few radar scans, we see it pushing just a little bit farther down to the southeast. That takes it away from Oklahoma City. That takes it away from Edmond, but it pulls it closer and closer to the Riverwind Casino, Norman, Moore. Another factor that we're going to be dealing with besides the hail threat out of this, there's going to be a lot of rain. And it's going to come down. It's going to come down quick. Now, it's been a while since we've had a good heavy thunderstorm, so the flooding threat will be minimal, but it certainly will be there during the overnight hours as it takes a little while for the water to come down with just as much rain as we're going to see. Some areas pushing close to 3 inches. So hailstorm moving east southeast, severe thunderstorm warning does not yet go into Cleveland County, but it will soon. And so if your phones have not alerted you yet, know that they're coming. Still finding that inflow notch coming in. Chris Lee and Storm Command are pretty much as close as you can get and have the most technology looking in this storm and into this inflow notch that you can have and allowing us to determine whether or not you're going to be dealing with a tornado threat or not. Still finding at least a tornado risk right here. And so you cannot have this storm surrounded with more technology than what we have right now. So certainly looking at an inflow notch, a well-defined inflow notch with some rotation. And there's a boundary that just is cutting right across this part of the state. And so I have seen in the past where you get these tornadoes that spin up, and they can be some strong tornadoes. They may not last very long, but they last long enough to certainly do quite a bit of damage. And so still going to keep that threat alive and well tonight. As you can see right here, still picking up that low-level lock on our radar that is going to be west of Tuttle, west of Minco. Hail core is going to come in from Union City to Minco, but this is where you see that inflow notch. Chris Lee is looking right into it. Let's go out to Chris Lee if we can, because we were talking to him moments ago, finding at least a little bit of a lowering. Chris Lee, watching your stream now, what do you see in front of you?
We do still have a lowering. It's nowhere near as low to the ground as it was about 15 minutes ago. But very slow-moving storm, so we're able to kind of keep a good track on it as it moves slowly to the east-southeast. But it's pretty much due north of us now. We're a little bit, maybe 5 miles west of Pocasset, looking to our north. And there is a lowering that we see in the clouds. But it is not violent rotation and not anywhere near as close to the ground as it was a little bit ago. But we're certainly watching it, and it does have a tendency, as storms do, to kind of cycle, get stronger and weaker. So we'll see how it evolves as it moves closer to the Pocasset area. Because it looks like that's where it's headed right now, is right towards the town of Pocasset.
Same thing with Minko, Tuttle, and eventually looking downstream outside of the warning, Newcastle, Blanchard, Moore, Norman, Noble, Slaughterville, Purcell, and eventually Wayne. And then going even farther downstream, this is going to hold together going to Pottawatomie County and Seminole County after midnight. So we have lots of storms kind of all clustered together. This one is kind of by itself, and so I don't like seeing that. And this one right here that has nothing obstructing the inflow into this looks pretty serious as well. Seeing at least some rotation near Retrop, near Willow, north of Granite, Lone Wolf, Cambridge, right here. That's warned on for still dropping up to tennis ball size hail, 70-mile-per-hour winds with this storm that is dropping down to the southeast, headed towards Cambridge, Lone Wolf, and eventually Lugert, Hobart, Babs, and Rocky. So this moving into Cambridge at 10:35, Hobart 10:49, Babs, Cavalti, and Roosevelt. This one, too, shows a well-defined inflow notch and at least shows some sign of rotation as well. And it still has at least that very large hail. We've already had lots of tennis ball and baseball-sized hail reported out of this. That's coming right now into Retrop. And so you can see with our hail core and our shear on that just southeast of Carter, quite a bit of large hail. Quite a bit of large hail with this one. Big hail out of this as well, dropping about golf balls. Already had some reports of golf balls with this storm out by Cloud Chief. So we have a lot of storms that are just happening right now. We have hailstorms. We have storms that are rotating, beginning to move a little more to the east-southeast, which is good. We like to see that, at least making its way away from those in northern Oklahoma. But we still have an atmosphere that is still quite unstable and still has just enough shear to where these storms still want to rotate just west of Sedan, north of Cooperton. So that storm moving down to the southeast and eventually towards Alden, south of Pine Ridge, big hail in that one as well, and that warning goes until 10:30. As we go up to the northeast, we'll go back into this storm that still has eyes on the metro, especially south sides of the metro with this large hail that is currently falling just west of Minko. Still some rotation within this. Let's go out to field meteorologist Michael Armstrong and Storm Command. Michael, this storm continues to still have a very large hail threat, still seeing that inflow notch as well. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, speaking of inflow, Damon, I'm getting some inflow gusts in excess of 30 miles per hour now straight into this storm. If you've seen the movie Independence Day, that's what this thing looks like. It is an absolute mothership. It is a gigantic supercell thunderstorm. The whole thing is rotating. The one good thing I can tell you is I don't see any real organized wall clouds, funnels, or anything like a tornado at this moment. But there is just pronounced lowering underneath this. It's a huge lowered cloud base that's underneath it. If it were to intensify a little bit more, especially in terms of its rotation, then it might do something. It very well could. Based on its track so far, I think it's still just a hail producer. But I'll tell you what, this is concerning to me.
Yeah, if it's concerning to you, Michael, it's definitely concerning to all of us. Still looking at a very large hail core right here that is going to be just northeast of Gracemont, Pecasset, moving to the east-southeast. Storm track, Amber, Bridge Creek, Middleburg, 10:39 to 10:58. Blanchard, Newcastle, Dibble, shortly after 11 o'clock. At least ping-pong, golf ball size hail, pushing close to lime-sized hail with this. So, Jonathan, big hail threat continues with this storm moving east-southeast. This is going to continue to make its way and eventually into Grady, McLean, and Cleveland County.
That's the main storm that would be moving into the south side of OKC. And, boy, we got Michael and Chris Lee right on it. So this is kind of a two-part process. We look at radar. We kind of look at the location of the storm, the intensity of it, which you're looking at right now. We call that reflectivity. Then the velocity part, those are the winds. And we tell you, that's the first part is radar. The second part is having our trackers out in the field. And Chris Lee and Michael Armstrong are in the perfect spot. That's where you need to be. And they're just, it's dark. They have their night vision cams on, but they're also using their own eyes, and they're looking for those lightning strikes chasing for anything backlit. And so, you know, I did a lot of storm chasing, and I hear it in Michael's voice, and I'm looking for those cues, and he's telling us, hey, I see a big base, I see the wall cloud, but I don't see any pronounced lowering or funnel coming on down, and that's what we're looking for with our guys out in the field. Let me tell you, Michael and Chris are in the perfect spot if anything did form with this storm. Now, when it comes to the overall strength of the storm, let me tell you, on velocity and the velocity part of it, so how much rotation, there's not a lot at the low levels, and that's why Michael doesn't really see a funnel right now. But as we go up into the scans of the storm, because it's not just what is at the base of the storm, what you see with your eyes, it's way up, 1,000, then up to, which would be the base of the storm. You get up to like 10,000 to 20,000, the heart of the storm, where that updraft is really driving the whole storm, that mesocyclone is still really strong. Now, this storm, I will say, it is moving into an environment, it has, you know, you get over towards Minko, the dew points are lower. This storm was back to the west when it was over towards like Hinton, had higher humidity. There's still, you know, humidity fueling it, but I don't think the environment that it's going into right now, the further east that it goes, I think it's going into an environment that doesn't have fuel for it. But imagine also too, whatever's up there, suspended this storm, it's all got to come down eventually. So this could, again, drop all its suspended hail pretty quick coming into, you know, the Newcastle and the Blanchard and the Middleburg area. Scale 1 to 5, and I'm looking for that tornado threat right now. It's a 1.5, maybe a 2. Watching it, also watching the storms down across southwestern Oklahoma. You know, the two storms that I'm concerned about. I mean, we had that Elk City storm, which is kind of just turning into a big mess of precip near Lake Valley and Cloud Chief, but worried about the storm near Sedan, and then also the storm out near Sentinel. Those two are actually rotating, and they are in an environment which is more conducive or a better environment for a tornado threat. Those also on a scale 1 to 5, I would put them at like about a 2. They're not quite ramped up to a 3 or 4, but our guys are right there. Shane is looking at one storm and Buck is looking at the other. So if they see a cone or a funnel or anything, they're going to holler at us. But those two storms, albeit, you know, western Oklahoma and rural, we're still watching them real closely.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing is these storms move into that drier air, Jonathan. A lot of times they can push out some pretty strong winds as they do so. So we're watching these storms as they continue to move down to the southeast. Let's go back up to this metro storm, because in the last couple radar scans, I've seen an uptick in the hail and the width and how far the hail spreads. Yeah, look at that right there. That right there, we've been telling you this now for a while, that this storm was not done yet with its hail and it trying to increase in hail sizes. In the last two radar scans, that 3-inch size hail core really ramped up. I mean, this thing is still packing a punch, and it's still gaining strength as it's moving into many more populated areas. And so that's putting a new roof on a lot of homes. And so from Minko to Tuttle, this storm is coming in 10:34, Minko, Tuttle at 10:50. We go into Blanchard at 11:17. You'll notice these times here shows how slow this storm is moving. And so the fact that it takes from it to go from here to about here, and it takes almost an hour, about 45 minutes to do so, shows that when that hail is coming down, it's going to come down for a while. So long enough that this is certainly going to just do quite a bit of damage. So Minko, Tuttle, 10:34, 10:51. Blanchard at 11:17. We go into Cole at 11:30, and then we start getting into more at about 11:30 as well. Sooner, Mall there in Norman about 11:30 as well with this storm, and that hail core continues to increase in intensity with each radar scan. Nothing blocking it down to the south, which means it has these winds that are just feeding right into it, and so that's allowing this to at least increase its intensity. This will miss Edmond. This will miss Oklahoma, at least Oklahoma County mostly, but it will not miss. Here we are in Grady, McLean, Cleveland County. This storm is headed straight to the east, and mom and dad, if your kids are sleeping peacefully right now, they won't in about an hour as this storm moves in, because there's a lot of noise with it. Hail, lightning, cloud-to-ground lightning strikes, you name it, coming out of this. So hail core coming in, still finding at least some rotation with it. It's there, the red and the green coming together. It's what we really look out for. Just southwest of Minko, there's Chris Lee, there's Storm Command, and you can see the hail path that this thing is just leaving, and it's going to eventually fill into Minko and Tuttle as well. So there's certainly going to be some big hail right here. When you see the black there on the radar, that's going to be your 2 and 3 inch size hail course. That's going to be your lime size to baseball size hail that is going to be coming out of this storm, and it's moving slow enough that it's going to do a number. So this continues to move to the east, Tuttle down towards Newcastle, and eventually the Riverwind Casino Blanchard. You're certainly in the path of this storm moving down to the east. Jonathan putting it in a 3-dimensional mode there. Doing a slice out of it. And what this allows us to do is you can really see exactly where that hail is going to be within this storm. So here we are. Each line is 10,000 feet. So 10,000, 20,000, but you can see exactly where that hail is falling down on the storm. So the hail is up high, it falls down, and that's exactly where the hail is falling down and hitting the ground. So hail falling down right here, hail suspended aloft is falling down right here. Here's Pecasset, there's Chris Lee, and just this technology just really allows you to look inside the storm, and you can see exactly where the hail is forming. So 10, 20, 25 to 30,000 feet in the air is where that hail is forming, and then you can see where it's dropping. It's dropping right there. It's not really dropping a whole lot right here. You don't see the black on the radar, but that's exactly where it's dropping, about 1 mile northwest of Pecasset, moving to the east-southeast, and it's eventually headed towards Amber and in towards Pecasset as well. Jonathan, you're slicing this radar, looking at it line by line, foot by foot. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, so people probably wonder, well, Jonathan, why are you doing that? I'm using the tools that I have available to show you what the storm is doing. I want you to look real close and look where my cursor is at. So I have it tilted. You can see Chris Lee, Michael right out in front of it. But right where my cursor is at right there, that is a kind of what we call the vault. That is the updraft itself. So there's no precip there, but it's driving all the hail up. That vault is really strong. It's just a really classic signature on radar, and that is a really strong vault. So you get, the forward flank, you can see all the hail right here, but as I pull the slice closer towards Chris, they get that vault, and there's nothing showing up there because the updraft is going straight up. So what do you have to put hail up, 20, 30,000 feet up the air, that size of baseballs? You have to have wind velocities in the updraft over 100 miles an hour. That tells you that this storm is strong. To get that signature, again, that big old vault right there, that emptiness, that void in the signatures and the radar, that's just a classic vault right there. And that's just hammering the hail up. And again, what goes up must come down. That, like Michael said earlier, it's a big time hail maker. It has some rotation with it, but boy, it has a lot of hail suspended aloft. The mesocyclone's really strong.
It is, yeah, it absolutely is. Very good analysis there with that storm. Let's go west. Out across western Oklahoma. We'll call this one the western southwestern storm where Shane Helton is located. Big hail with this. Let's go out to Shane right now. Shane, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Well, we're right straight south of the storm. We're actually on Highway 9 right now, and that storm's about 8 miles north of us, maybe 6 miles. We're watching a big old wall cloud, and it also has a pretty good-sized funnel underneath it. I don't think there is anything as far as touching the ground yet, but it definitely had a big old funnel underneath it. We're going past trees right now. I tried to turn my camera where you could see it, but the trees and everything else is just really having a hard time being able to see that right now. So, but there's definitely a funnel underneath this storm, and it is heading right straight towards Hobart. Let's see here, Cambridge and Hobart. Both of you guys, both you towns need to be paying real close attention to this storm. It's got very large hail in it. And there is a very real possibility that this thing could have some pretty good rotation in it as it comes your direction.
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, watching that.
Try and stop here.
Okay, we're gonna watch that one closely. So Shane there reporting a pretty good sized funnel coming out of this storm, headed straight towards Hobart. Hobart not tornado warning yet. However, the risk is certainly there as it moves down to the southeast. So we're going to watch this. I want to send it over to Jessica Shambach real quick for an update at the news desk.
Keep heading out west, Damon. Let's go back to Elk City. Talking about hail, the big story tonight, just 2 hours ago, look what they saw out in Elk City. I mean, this picture coming in from Kelsey Mers, tennis ball to baseball size hail. That is massive. And we had another picture from Hugo Ramos, and you can see he's holding a quarter next to those 4 hailstones that you see in his hand. I mean, this hail busted out one of our storm chasers' sunroof windows tonight, Damon. So just some serious, huge hail coming out of these storms tonight.
Yeah, that was in Elk City when we had Shane Helton, Nick Smith lost the sunroof right there. They had tennis balls there in Elk City numerous times. So an update right now, the severe thunderstorm watch remains in effect until 2 a.m. For Oklahoma City down to the south and southeast. That storm continues to move down to the southeast. We're going to watch this one very closely. Shane has eyes right on it. Let's get another update with these storms that we have ongoing up to the northeast. Show you the big picture right now. Cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings. This storm still dropping some hail. That's going to be west of Tuttle, and the threat for some large hail with it as well. It's all the black right here. It's going to bounce back and forth. You're going to see that at times it has quarter-size hail. Then the radar picks up larger hail cores with it as well. We want this storm to decrease its hail size. Absolutely. We don't want any storm out there to be dropping some big hail. So we're hoping that we can keep this trend going, but we haven't been able to set a trend yet because it keeps going back and forth with lime size and tennis ball size hail and then quarter size hail. Let's go out to Michael Armstrong. He's in Amber right now, looking right into the storm. Michael, severe thunderstorm warning continues. Give us an update with what you're seeing.
Well, I'm going to center up my shot, Damon, on exactly what I'm seeing, and there is a little bit more of a pronounced lowering right now, and that is very close to Pocasset. I mean, pretty much right over town. And this thing, if you can't see it, it is, again, an upside-down wedding cake. I mean, the whole thing is spinning from the top to the bottom of this storm. And so right here, right in the middle of my shot, if anything develops further down toward the ground, I'm going to be even more concerned about it. Right now, it looks like it has kind of recycled, and a new lowering has spun up on the southeast side of the old one, but it hasn't strengthened enough to be able to produce a tornado at this point. But I'll tell you what, it is still rotating, and it's still producing a lot of hail.
It is, yeah, and great analogy right there, upside down wedding cake, and when that lightning flashes, yeah, you can definitely see that. I mean, if this were daylight, I mean, that would be one of those storms that you see and, it goes viral and everyone says, what's happening over Oklahoma? This storm has that. So it's nighttime. Y'all need to be staying indoors and so staying away from these storms because there's all the lightning coming out of this and still all the hail. When you see where the hail is, that's hail, and that is hail. Still warned on for some sporting ball size hail, golf balls, ping pong balls, and at times it gets even larger than that as it continues to cycle to the east. So headed towards Bridge Creek, Middleburg, and then Blanchard on the far right-hand side of your television screen, and eventually going into Newcastle. Now, what we're tracking here is going to be the hail threat, the hail core with this moving down to the southeast. However, what will move into Oklahoma City. It's going to be a lot of rain, especially in the Moore and down into Norman as all this moves. And we have lots of scattered thunderstorms now popping up on the radar. No need to worry about that stuff in Edmond. Again, I know we're hearing a couple rumbles of thunder from Edmond, Oak Tree, up towards Guthrie. That's just a little bit of rain, but what we have flashing in yellow right here will be your severe thunderstorm warnings with your hail cores coming into the east-southeast. We also see more storms now popping up east of Choctaw. Those are lifting up towards Rossville. So this right here, good old-fashioned rain. It'll wet the roads. What this will do right here, though, is still put some holes in some of your roofs and in your windshields with some very large hail as it continues to move to the east. We want this storm. We want all of these storms to decrease their hail sizes. We're hoping that they can do that. But right now, they're still warned on for some very large hail. Ping pong balls, tennis balls right here with these storms that continue to make their way to the east-southeast. So this storm is going to wake up a lot of us from Moore down to Newcastle, down to Blanchard and Dibble. Closer inspection, at least in the last radar scan, we've seen a little bit less black popping up on the radar and a little bit less white shady colors there popping up on the radar as well. That's good news. We want to see that. Let's go to Chris Lee right now. Chris Lee, watching your storm closely. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, we got golf ball size hail falling in Pocasset. Golf ball size hail, some of them around ping pong ball, but largest one we saw, golf ball size hail into Pocasset. You can kind of see it. Let me switch to the dash camera here. Just lost windshield. That was bigger than golf ball.
Uh-oh. Yeah, bigger than golf ball. How much bigger than golf ball there?
Hail.
Huh?
I didn't really see it, but it looks like probably about 2-inch hail.
When you've been chasing as long as Chris has, sometimes you can judge the size of the hail by the way it sounds when it hits your car. So we definitely heard that. We definitely heard that here in the TV station. So that right there will certainly do some damage as well. So we're gonna keep in close contact there with Chris Lee. But Abigail, hail has been the big story tonight. These damage pictures coming in have just been pretty incredible.
This coming in from Dill City there in Ouachita County. Let me show you what this looked like. This picture coming in from Hopi, and this hailstone, if we have the photo to show you, is just enormous, and it damaged her windshield. We talked earlier about our storm chaser Nick Smith. His hailstone damaged his sunroof. If we have that picture that we can show you, I would like to pop it up. Here it is. You see just how large that's got to be. Maybe tennis ball, and that hit the windshield. And Damon was talking earlier about those windshields are meant to sustain a little bit of damage. Now, Hopi told me that everybody is okay there in Dill City, but it did a lot of damage at her house and to her car. We saw what happened at the Walmart in Elk City, knocked out their skylights, raining glass down. So that has really been the big headline tonight. We have seen a few tornado warnings, but that hail has been extremely dangerous and damaging. I'm also still tracking your power outages. We are seeing some there in Ouachita County where that photo is coming from. Also some out of Roger Mills, really right now in the western part of the state. But guys, I'm continuing to watch what our first responders are doing here in the Oklahoma City metro. And keep in mind, we are really not getting the brunt of this storm, or we haven't so far. But they have been responding to things like storm damage, check smoke, storm damage. So just because we are not getting the worst of it right now, our first responders and our Oklahoma City Fire Department still slammed with these phone calls, and it's starting to ramp up as we move into the night. Jonathan?
Yeah, and so we're not getting the hail in Oklahoma City. You can see on radar here, the hail is down near Pocasset, where Chris Lee just took, at least he's thinking 2-inch size hail there. We'll have to check in with him a little bit later to see how his windshield's looking. Here in Oklahoma City, you're getting lightning strikes, yes, but nothing severe. So it's going to be pretty loud. These lightning strikes are coming out of that storm down near Tuttle. So they're launching literally 20 miles away from the storm. And so it will be pretty loud. Now, is there imminent threat in the next couple minutes for Oklahoma City? No. That main hailstorm, that strong, dominant supercell down near Pocasset is turning a little bit more to the right, dropping to the southeast. But we're still going to get some moderate, even maybe some heavy rain eventually here into Oklahoma City. So the storm that Chris Lee was on, again, big hailstorm, got another storm. This is one that Buck King is on. This is moving into Apache. That is a dominant supercell. This one furthest to the south, so it has it's feeding off the deepest humidity. You can clearly see that with the lightning strikes. Look at all that lightning with that storm coming into the north side of Lawton there, Elgin, Sterling, Fletcher. It may not come directly into Lawton. We'll have to watch that real closely. And then the tail end storm here, this little storm hanging out on the backside, this is one that Shane Helton is on, and that storm has a strong inflow notch. I mean, the velocity on radar looks pretty strong. It has a pretty good hook, and wouldn't you know it, Shane Helton's right there, right just south of the hook. And so that's a dominant supercell, and that's moving into Hobart, Camalti, Babs, eventually Roosevelt, and Cooperton. So again, Michael's on the storm just to the, out near Minco, Pocasset. That storm is rotating. You can see in the shot, you can see the, what we call striations, or the plates on it. No imminent threat for a tornado for that storm, but it's dropping its big hail. But the two storms that But the two storms that we're watching right now, Damon, that I'm a little bit concerned still about a tornado threat would be the storm coming into Hobart and the one just north of Medicine Park. Those two storms, they're in the deeper moisture, and they still have low-level winds, which would be conducive for tornado genesis if that would happen for tonight.
Yeah, and especially with just a lot of nothingness south of them allows that inflow to come in and still feed them to keep that risk alive and well. Let's go back up to the north. And so this is going to be where Chris Lee and Storm Command currently located. Here's more. Here's going to be Bridge Creek. We're west of Newcastle. There's Blanchard and Middleburg. And there's Storm Command and Michael Armstrong. Michael, out to you we go. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
I'm looking straight north toward Amber right now, Damon. I'm a couple miles south of Amber, and I will tell you this thing has really, really impressive structure. You mentioned it earlier about how this thing, if it was in the daytime, it would go viral because this is just incredible storm structure. The whole thing is striated. It's just plates stacked one on top of another. And this is the new lowering that's formed. So what happens is, we will say this sometimes, if you ever hear us say the word occlusion, what that means is that the old circulation is being cut off by the storm's outflow, and then a new one forms. And so what we're looking at is the new one that's forming, and it is just north of Amber, and there's just wicked cloud to ground lightning, and this thing is producing some massive hail just to our north and west also. And the one good thing is, again, I don't see anything hanging down like it's going to produce a tornado, but it is going to be moving very close to Amber, so you guys could take some fairly large hail in Amber. Again, I hope everybody listened to us earlier today when we said that there's going to be some massive hail coming through today, because I'll just tell you, there's going to be damage. There's no question about it. And we are getting really strong inflow into the storm also, Damon, which tells me it's not going to die anytime soon. I'm getting gusts over 30 out of the south-southeast straight into the mesocyclone.
And that's strong enough to certainly at least keep that threat alive and well as it continues to move to the east. So, Chris, Storm Command moving to the east. I expect that we're probably going to see a new severe thunderstorm warning that's going to be issued not too long from now. That is likely going to be just a little bit farther south. The northern line is from where this is, but I expect that we're probably going to see it. It's going to look a lot like this, more than likely, where Moore down to Belmar, Norman, you'll be included, Riverwind, Goldsby, Cole, Blanchard, Middleburg, you'll be included in this as well. You'll notice that in the last couple of radar scans, we've lost a lot of that black color. That black, when it's on the radar, that's a big hail. You heard Chris Lee mention earlier he was taking on larger than golf balls. And so there's still some hail cores, but you're going to see it just kind of bounce back and forth where the hail sizes will come down, then they'll come up. They'll come down, they're going to come up. But as Michael was just mentioning, with that amount of inflow coming into this storm is still very healthy. It's still very mature as it continues to move to the east. And so the risk for this to continue to pose a threat as it moves down to the east-southeast is going to continue. Current storm track, Middleburg, 1106, Blanchard, 1114, Dibble, 1125, Cole, Riverwind Casino, and then Kreiner right in the ballpark of about 1130. What do you need to know? Be on the lookout for at least ping pong ball size hail, winds of 60 miles per hour. And just in this zone right here, there's a lot of lightning in this. You've seen all the pictures coming in. You saw it from Michael, all the lightning strikes, and those lightning strikes are going to come in with some very, very intense thunder, the kind that shakes the house, the kind that will probably wake your child up. Your dog's going to be going crazy. If you have a dog that does not like thunderstorms, then you give them medicine in a minute. I see your comments that come in. I hope that you have given them that, because I know that there are a lot of dogs out there that just do not like this, and they pace back and forth. So this is going to be one of those storms that's coming in. So still has a hail threat making its way to the east. If you want to track, or as we track at least the area of most intense part of the storm, we have some rotation, some large hail. You can see right here where it's going. So again, the toll booth, when we say toll booth, that's the first one that you hit on your way down the H.E. Bailey towards Chickasha. So that's at 11:01. That's about 20 minutes from now. Middleburg, 11:06. We're going to Blanchard, 11:14, Dibble, Cole, and again, Kreiner and the Riverwind Casino. that will be coming in probably in the next, right now it's 10:40, so it's coming in by about 11:10 to 11:30 with that particular part of the storm. We will likely see an extension of the severe thunderstorm warning pretty soon. And for those of you in Cleveland County, your phones are probably going to go off soon as that warning is issued. Big hailers falling west of Apache, out by Hobart, Sentinel as well. As we look at this storm, this has a lot of big hail in it as well. Moving down to the southeast and east, this is going to make its way into Boone, Apache, Fletcher, Surreal, Cement, and Sterling, but about 11 to 11:30. Hail core falling over Alden, west of Boone. Some rotation, not very pronounced, but it's certainly there. We have Buck on that storm right there as this continues to make its way. It's likely going to stay north of Lawton, and we'll eventually go in the southern parts of Grady County, well on the eastern side of this cone right here. So got some strong winds coming in with this as well. And again, you can see the current track with this. There's Buck looking right into the storm. We're going to see a pocket of strong winds as you make your way towards the community of Boone, and that's going to have a lot of large hail with it as well. So hail core moving down to the southeast with this storm, and a tornado risk, not a very high tornado risk, but certainly a tornado risk nonetheless with that. Let's go up to this storm. This is where Shane Helton's currently on Hobart. There's a lot of big hail in this as well, and this is going to come right over Hobart with some big hail. This has already produced tennis ball and baseball size hail. So Hobart, that's what's coming. Right now it's 10:42. This moves in 8 minutes. And then the community of Sedan at 11:35. Inflow with this cell moving down to the southeast. And oh my goodness, when you see that white on the radar, that is some very large hail. We're talking about 3-inch size hail. You're going well over tennis balls with that, baseballs. That right there is going to do quite a bit of damage. And any livestock in this area is not going to fare well with that. So Hobart, right now you're about 4.5 miles away from this storm moving in. The hail starting to fall in Hobart, as you can see right there. And there's Shane Helton. As a matter of fact, I do want to get Shane Helton on the phone here in just a second because I want to get an update on just how significant this storm looks coming into Hobart, right over him. Shane, out to you we go. What are you seeing?
Damon, is starting to hail here in Hobart. But anyways, there's some outflow wind coming off this storm, which was actually not too bad there for a few minutes. It kind of made me think that the storm was starting to fall apart, but then all of a sudden the outflow winds quit. Everything is calm, and the storm is really starting to ramp up again. So it's just cycling is all it was doing, I think. Now, there is for sure some hail. It's coming this direction. I did see one hailstone hit right here next to us. Then there wasn't any more. But, oh, here comes. There's more hail starting to fall in Hobart right now, right here in the very center of town.
Big as that hail,
and
Shane?
It is, yeah, it's quarters.
Quarters? It's going to get bigger than quarters. It starts small and gets bigger. You know that. And so hopefully you have a way to protect your vehicle.
We may get you some good measurements here in just a few seconds.
There you go. So you're saying quarters?
Yeah, it's quarters right now.
It's warned on right now, Shane, for tennis balls.
It won't be long because it's starting to get bigger as time goes on here. Just give it a few minutes. I think we're going to have some pretty big hail. Even, what I'm looking at going off to our north here, there's definitely, you could see the hail shaft up there. When the lightning flashed and stuff, it sure looked like there was a pretty good hail shaft up there. Now, we did watch for a long time. We watched a wall cloud that had a funnel or something like that in it for a long time, and it went away. And then it came back shortly and then went away again. So the hail is picking up. Here comes more hail. I'm right here in town. It is still looks like the biggest one might be just a little bit bigger than a quarter.
It's about to go to tennis balls.
Anything larger than. Yeah, I see one out in the center of the road that's getting close to a golf ball. People here in town are going crazy because they're out driving around and all of a sudden all the hail. So definitely a lot of people flying around town here. Let me readjust my cameras here. There we go. I'm going to turn them down here to the highway so you can see the hail bouncing off the highway.
Oh, yeah. It's about to get big.
It's going to be real big here in just a few minutes. Now, I'm actually going to. I think I'm going to be in the actual area where the inflow notch is at. So the biggest part of the hail might just go off to our east just a little bit, not very far, but I'm really thinking we're going to get some pretty good sized hail here.
Well, you know, one thing that I see coming out of this especially is that this is some pretty dense hail that we have in here. Sometimes you can have hailstones that just, they fall apart, they shatter right when they hit the road. These are not, which means that this is some pretty dense hail, and I've seen quarter size hail knock out a roof, and then I've seen quarter size hail that just falls apart. So you can have hail density and just how how firm is the hail. But the fact that these are not breaking apart the second they hit the road goes to show you that this is going to get pretty bad, Hobart. So Shane, what are you seeing now? How big's that hail getting?
Yeah, we're still just under golf balls right now, and you're like you said, they are not falling apart. Now, one crazy thing here is that there's vehicles kind of parked around me, and the hailstones are bouncing off these vehicles and hitting my vehicle, and I'm underneath an awning. I'm going to jump out here and grab a hailstone here real quick, and I'm going to measure it for you. I'll tell you exactly how big the hail is.
Shane, be safe, okay? Be careful there, buddy.
Oh, yeah. This hailstone I got in my hand is not the biggest. Hold on a second here.
This
I'm going to get my tape measure.
I tell you what, this Shane. I mean, I'm telling you right now, this thing's warned on for tennis ball size hail. Shane, just be safe when you do this, okay? Because these are some very dense hailstones that are coming down. That's a big one right there. That thing did not shatter at all when it came down. As I mentioned, sometimes you can have tennis ball size hail that just falls apart the second it hits the ground, and then sometimes you can have tennis ball size hail that just goes right through a roof. And these are the kind that could easily go right through a roof. But we've been watching this. There's a big hailstone right there. That's a big one. That's probably the biggest one that I see right now on the ground. And again, this is warned on for tennis balls, but look how they just bounce and roll. Shane, Shane, if you can hear me right now, how big is that hail getting?
We're larger than golf balls on some of the larger stones now.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely see it. We definitely see it. I mean, that is some big hail that is coming into Hobart right now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep this picture up, but I want to go back up and revisit the storm that is just west and southwest of Oklahoma City near Pecasset, because that storm is at least beginning to show a bit of an uptick as it makes its way to the east here. So what we'll do here is we'll pan this over, because if you're in Oklahoma City, especially in south sides of the metro, really concerned about this storm making its way in and still finding at least a hail core from Minco up to Tuttle, Pecasset, seeing an uptick in just the last few minutes with this storm, which means that this is going to cycle back and forth. But that right there is going to be some very large hail. And